Chapter 48-46. The Emperor came back with Guo. Tang Shan was surprised. She was wondering how they knew each other. The Emperor came over like this. Was it because of Guo? If the Emperor took a fancy to Guo, then her arrangement would be useless. But she thought that the power of the world was controlled by Yun Bingjun. If they were not willing, the little Emperor could not do anything. Tang Shan settled down, but she was not willing to go back to rest. She had to wait for the two to come. Half a day later, Tang Guo and Zhou Jin returned to the regent's palace. Tao, and Ma He were tied up and escorted in. Tang Shan saw this and her heart jumped. Especially when the two people's clothes were not neat. She had already guessed it in her heart. Could it be that the two people did that in the temple? Sure enough, Zhou Jin recuperated in the temple. At night, he couldn't sleep, so he went out for a walk. As a result, he accidentally saw Ma He and Tao's unbearable scene. Yun Bingjun was furious when he heard this. The veins on his forehead jumped. He wanted to rush up and beat the two people to death. Tang Guo was praying for Shan to extend her life. These two shameless things dared to do such a thing in the Buddhist Holy Land. If something happened to Shan this time, what should he do? Especially when this matter was known by the little Emperor and the people in the temple. He had lost a lot of face. Someone come, drag these two people out and beat them to death. Yun Bingjun did not ask Tang Guo. In his opinion, Tao deserved to die. He was the master here. There was no need to ask other people. Regent, please spare us. Ma He and Tao shouted. Unfortunately, Yun Bingjun could not hear them. Then the two people shouted at the same time, Princess, save this servant and this servant. Princess, save us. How could Tang Shan save these two people? They were the ones who asked for death. They actually did that in the Buddhist temple. Guo was there to pray for her. Now it was ruined by these two people. It would be good if she did not want their lives. Seeing that Tang Shan didn't speak, Tao felt hopeless. Suddenly, she thought of something and shouted, Wang Fei, you can't not save me. Wang Fei, if I die, who will help you look after second miss? Didn't you say? When Tang Shan heard this, she knew that Tao wanted to drag her down with her. Mei Yu reacted quickly and walked over to slap Tao's face. Not only did Tao's little face have a palm print on it, she was also knocked unconscious. You're spouting nonsense and doing such a despicable thing. You even dare to slander the princess consort. Mei Yu coldly snorted, why aren't you dragging him away and beating him to death? Two guards came up and pulled Tao away. Tang Guo heard the sound of water splashing, followed by Tao's screams, one after another. Mei Yu frowned and looked at Ma He. In the end, she did not say anything and returned to Tang Shan's side. Although she was a little reluctant to part with Ma He, she couldn't save him if he was caught doing something ugly. It was better if he was dead, lest the secret between them be exposed. Wang Fei, are you burning the bridge after crossing the river? Ma He suddenly said loudly, it was you who ordered Tao to monitor Second Mississippi. You were worried that in the future, Second Miss would pray for young Master Dan and young Miss Xian. When Tang Shan heard this, she only felt that Ma He was not tactful. She was calm. What did these two know? She was not afraid at all. Without waiting for her to say more, Yun Bingjun was already angry. He waved his hand. Why aren't you dragging this disgraceful thing out and punishing her on the spot? Chapter 48-47. Ma He, who was being held back, shouted loudly, Wang Fei, you are burning the bridge after crossing the river. Your heart is so vicious. Poor second miss actually didn't know anything and was tricked by you, fooled in circles. Ha 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 ha, it's a pity that the second miss still treats you as a sister. She sincerely went to the temple to pray for you. She cares so much about family. And you are selfish. For your two children, you actually ruined the second miss. Second Miss, Ma-He, will go all out today. The princess has already given you a contraceptive drug to protect the status of her 2 children. She is afraid that you will bully them. Anyway, Ma-He, am a dying man. If you don't believe me, you can go to see me. Ma-He's voice was very loud. Almost everyone in the palace heard the noise. There were many people here. Without thinking, this matter will soon spread outside. When Yun Bingjun heard it, he couldn't help but be stunned. What is this dog slave talking about? How could Shan do such a thing? Tang Shan really didn't expect Ma-He to know this. Her hands and feet were cold. She didn't know how to react for a moment. She subconsciously looked at Tang Gua, only to see Tang Gua's expression was full of confusion. Second Miss, your sister princess has no sisterly affection for you. Ma-He continued to shout. From the corner of his eyes, he saw Tang Gua's confused and helpless appearance. His mood was complicated. The second miss was the most terrifying person. Look at this expression. Who would think that all of this was ordered by her? Tang Shan trembled with anger. Sister, don't listen to his nonsense. How could sister do such a thing? Dog slave, don't you want your tongue? You are about to die, but you still want to sow discord between our sisterly affection. Our sisterly affection is deep. Do you think you can shake it with just a few words? Ha ha ha, May you told me this in bed. You didn't expect it, did you, princess? Your most trusted maidservant told me when she was particularly excited while doing it. Ma-He laughed. In fact, he was afraid. Mocking the princess was something he never thought of, even if he knew what kind of person she was. The regent's power was too terrifying. Not many people dared to do such a thing, especially in front of him. However, he had no other choice. Just now, he understood that as the second miss had said, even if he used his weakness to threaten the princess consort would let him go today. In a few days, he would still die miserably. Therefore, he could only take a gamble. Mei Yu was trembling all over. Her face was pale and her lips trembled. Don't talk nonsense. I have nothing to do with you. I've seen every part of your body. I know where you have birthmarks and moles. Then Ma-He told all of Mei Yu's secrets loudly in public. Whether you have them or not, you can ask an old maid to take a look at them. Mei Yu, you dare? When Mei Yu heard this, she went limp and fell to the ground. Tang Shan shouted in panic, calling for people to drag him out and beat him to death. Ma-He, who was being beaten, endured the pain and continued to reveal Tang Shan's secret. Tang Shan was so angry that she fainted. Yun Bingjun finally recovered from his shock. Beat him to death. Hit him hard. However, what was the use of beating him to death? It was unknown how many people had heard what Ma-He had said out loud just now. If anyone dares to spread the nonsense that this dog servant spouted just now, this prince will make you suffer the consequences. Chapter 48. After saying those harsh words, Yun Bingjun picked up Tang Shan, took a deep look at Mei Yu, and returned to the room. These harsh words would not be of any use, unless he killed all the onlookers in the prince's mansion. If he killed the servants in the mansion because of this, he, as the regent, would never be able to convince the public in the future. Tang Gua gave Zhou Jin a look, and the two followed in. When the doctor said that Tang Shan's life was not in danger, Tang Gua stopped the doctor. This doctor was the one she found. She handed over her wrist, and Mei Yu's face immediately changed. But at this time, she couldn't stop it, and she didn't even dare to say a word. The regent and the princess consort didn't punish her for the time being, but this didn't mean that they wouldn't pursue what Ma-He said before. Don't make trouble here. Yun Bingjun was very unhappy to see Tang Gua like this. Ma-He had been beaten to death, and he didn't want to cause more trouble. It was best to pretend that nothing had happened. Even if Shan really did that, he understood that Shan had no choice but to do this for the sake of the 2 children. In his heart, Shan and the 2 children were naturally much more important than Tang Gua, his wife's younger sister. Brother-in-law, if you want to break the rumors, it's best to let the doctor diagnose me. If there's nothing wrong with my body, everything will collapse. Tang Guo was very persistent. I also want to see if there's anything wrong with my body. If brother-in-law doesn't allow it, then I'll go out of the mansion. At this point, Yun Bingjun couldn't continue to stop her. In fact, at this time, he somewhat believed Ma He's words. But so what? Shan only did this because she had no choice. If it was really confirmed, when Shan recovered, he would make some compensation to Tang Guo. After all, they were two sisters, and there was no unresolvable hatred between them. Doctor, help me take a look. Is it because of Chinese medicine that I can't get pregnant for life? The doctor took her pulse, and after a while, his face changed greatly. After several diagnoses, he finally said, "Second miss, you are indeed. Can it be cured?" Tang Guo asked. "Doctor, the Chinese medicine is too strong, it can't be cured." Yun Bingjun, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? The regent can let other doctors diagnose him. There are countless doctors in the residence. Yun Bingjun instantly dispelled this idea. The doctor shouldn't lie to him. After all, he already believed Ma He's words. If he diagnosed a few more times, wouldn't that just let more people know? Since the Prince Regent doesn't believe me, then call other doctors to diagnose. Yun Bingjun stopped him. There's no need. Is the regent feeling guilty? Tang Guo's attitude changed instantly. No one felt that she was wrong. There was no one who didn't know what a woman who could never conceive meant in this era. Moreover, it was her own sister who harmed her. Even if Tang Guo cursed and beat Tang Shan up now, no one would think that she had gone too far. For the first time, Yun Bingjun was so ridiculed that he couldn't say a word. When Tang Guo arranged for someone to call the doctor, he forgot to stop it. Tang Guo called all the physicians in the residence over and diagnosed her one by one. The final result was the same. The physicians retreated, trembling. It wasn't that they hadn't seen this second Miss Tang before, but at this time, second Miss Tang made them very afraid. In their impression, second Miss Tang had always been a naive, lively, and pure girl. Chapter 48-49. At this moment, the coldness of second Miss Tang's body made them feel fearful. They didn't dare to say more and quickly left with their medicine boxes. The people in the room were very silent. Tang Guo looked at the position separated by a curtain. Tang Shan was lying there. She suddenly stood up and walked towards the curtain. Before she reached the curtain, she was stopped by Yun Bingjun's arm. He asked warily, "What are you doing?" "What can I do? Didn't you guys do something?" Tang Guo didn't continue. It seems that brother-in-law thinks this is a very small matter. She really is laughable. For her own child, she actually wants to harm me like this. Does she really think that I care about everything here? To her, it's honey, but to me, it's arsenic. I wholeheartedly treated her as a sister. She harmed me like this. In the end, it's a mistake. Tang Guo returned to her seat. She saw Yun Bingjun sigh in relief and mocked, "The regent looks very nervous. With you here, what can I do to her?" Shan was forced to, haha, what a good forced to. Forced to harm me like this? Does she think that she's very noble, that she can even give up her beloved husband? Does she think that I got a great bargain? Does she think that I care? Facing Tang Guo's mockery, Yun Bingjun's lips moved, but he didn't refute. "What do you want?" "I can compensate you." Yun Bingjun said, "Don't hurt Shan. She treats you as a sister, compensate me? You really want to compensate me?" Tang Guo's gaze fell on Yun Bingjun. "What can you use to compensate me?" "I don't care about you. Other than silver, I don't like anything that has been used by others." Zhou Jin, who had been standing at the side all this time, was shocked. He was very glad that he was still clean and hadn't been used by others. Fortunately, he had kept his chastity since he was young. His personal servants were all little eunuchs. No palace maid dared to touch him. From head to toe, he was clean and tidy. This regent consort was also very funny. She actually thought that everyone would care about Yun Bingjun and even harmed her own sister. Zhou Jin was not surprised by these methods. After all, he had grown up in the palace. He felt pity for Tang Gua. Did her family know about these things? Even if he knew, he probably wouldn't blame Tang Shan for what she did. After all, once she died, everyone in the family hoped that their daughter would marry into the Prince Regent's residence. They would only feel that Tang Shan's methods were a little cruel, but they could still understand. They would not think that Tang Guo was pitiful. As long as it's not too much, I'll definitely do it. Yun Bingjun said that it was indeed Tang Shan's fault. There was nothing wrong with Tang Guo being so angry. Yun Bingjun didn't want Tang Guo to resent Shan because of this. Tang Guo said, I don't want to live in the regent's mansion anymore. Even if something happens to her in the future, I won't fulfill my promise. She harmed me, and I know about it. You should also understand that I can't disregard the past and take care of your children. Even if Tang Guo didn't say this, Yun Bingjun could understand. If something really happened to Shan, and he married Tang Guo, he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to resist harming his children. I'll send you back to the family Tang. I don't want to live in the family Tang either. If word of this gets out, I'll be despised if I live in the family Tang. I'll only be bullied. Yun Bingjun asked patiently, then where do you want to live? Give me a house. I want to live alone. Yun Bingjun's heart relaxed. No problem. Chapter 4850. It's not over. Give me 1 million gold. Tang Guo leaned back in her chair and casually said, 1 million gold is for me to use when I retire. If there are no accidents, I will be alone for the rest of my life. You can take out 1 million gold, but I will have to hire a lot of guards. It will cost a lot. Yun Bingjun was a little annoyed. She opened her mouth and asked for 1 million gold. Did she want to empty him? If he was really a simple regent, he really couldn't take it out. Didn't you want to give me compensation? This is the compensation I want. Otherwise, I will stay in the regent's residence. If I can't figure it out in the future and can't control myself, you can't blame me. Yun Bingjun was silent. After a while, he said, if I give you this, will you be able to bury the hatchet with Shan? Regent, it's not good to dream in broad daylight. This is just compensation. Didn't you want to give it? If I castrate you and give you these conditions, will you bury the hatchet with me? I didn't harm her because of our previous friendship. From the day she laid her hands on me, it was all gone. Tang Guo's words made the men present close their legs. This was almost a subconscious action. At that moment, everyone was embarrassed. Tang Guo's analogy was very crude, but it was very appropriate. If someone really did such a thing to Yun Bingjun, how could he care about a mere compensation? He would definitely make the other party beg for death, and their 18 generations of ancestors would not be able to rest in peace. Okay, I'll give it. As soon as possible. I don't want to stay here for a moment longer. Tang Guo looked at the curtain, the person inside. I don't want to see him again in this life. The cause and effect had been planted. There were not many things that belonged to her. 1 million gold was enough for her to do many things. With so much money, even Yun Bingjun would bleed a lot. His heart ached. But he still ordered people to prepare immediately. He also arranged for people to clean up a large residence. Under Tang Guo's reminder, he gave her the deed to the house and the land. In less than 2 hours, Tang Guo led people from the regent's residence to the new residence. Zhou Jin followed. In any case, he was an ignorant and incompetent little emperor. If he suddenly took a fancy to a girl, other people would only laugh at him. There wouldn't be any problems. Those who helped Tang Guo move her luggage were all people from Zhou Jin. Other than those who led the way, no one else from the Prince Regent's residence followed. Gold. Send it here in the middle of the night. Don't alarm others. Don't show off your wealth. Otherwise, I will be in danger. These were the last words that Tang Guo said to Yun Bingjun when she left the regent's residence. After Tang Guo left, the whole mansion became quiet. Yun Bingjun looked at Tao, and Mahi's corpses. His heart was filled with hatred. It was all because of these two incompetent things. Why aren't you cleaning them up? Yes, Your Majesty. How should he deal with them? Naturally, he would throw them into a mass grave. Could it be that he wanted to give them a grand burial? Regent, is this the end of the matter? When Princess Consort wakes up and finds out that Second Miss has left, I wonder if she will. It's good to send her away. If she stays in the mansion, I'm afraid that one day she won't be able to figure it out and will do something to Shan. Yun Bingjun said, there are still 2 children. Leaving her in the mansion is a hidden danger. Since she is willing to go out, it doesn't matter if we spend some money. It was just 1,000,000 gold. This price was a bit high. Yun Bingjun glanced at Meiyu, who was still kneeling on the side. Speaking of which, Meiyu also played a part in why Mahi knew so much. If he knew that Mahi could cause so much trouble, he would have broken his legs and driven him out of the mansion. However, it had already happened. It was too late. Your matter, wait until Shan wakes up before dealing with it, Yun Bingjun said. He wanted to beat Meiyu to death with a stick, but she was the most important servant girl by Tang Shan's side. Her life and death was still up to her. Chapter 48-51. Meiyu collapsed to the ground in despair. She had ruined the princess consort's plans. With the princess consort's temperament, she would not let her off. However, she still held on to a glimmer of hope. She wondered if the princess consort would spare her life for the sake of the many years she had served her. Tang Guo was in a very good mood after moving into the new residence. She dismissed the people from the regent's residence who were leading the way and invited Zhou Jin to visit the new residence. Zhou Jin and Qi Qing looked at each other. Second Miss Tang seemed to be very happy and did not seem to be sad about her experience. However, they still remembered the scene from before. She was clearly very angry. Young Master Zhou, I am now free. Tang Guo drank tea. This tea was brewed by Zhou Jin's people. Zhou Jin, congratulations, Second Miss Tang. I have to thank young Master Zhou for helping me get free. If young Master Zhou needs help in the future, you can come to me. Zhou Jin thought in his heart, what could she help him with? He had to deal with the civil and military officials of the imperial court, as well as the powerful regent. However, he still accepted this kindness. This was the first time someone took the initiative to say that they would help him if he had any difficulties in the future. This feeling, how should he describe it, was strange, wonderful, and addictive. Second Miss Tang, you don't have any manpower in your residence. Do you want to add some? Qi Qing has some ability to judge people. Do you want me to ask Qi Qing to help you choose some people? Then, thank you very much, young Master Zhou. Tang Guo planned to make some low-level paper puppets and put some to use. She could accept Zhou Jin's kindness. It was good to have 2 more people to serve her. Looking at Zhou Jin's appearance, he planned to send a few people to her. Then I will take my leave first. You don't have anyone to serve you here. I will leave 2 people for you to order around in order to avoid any accidents. Qi Qing will send the people over tomorrow. After bidding farewell to Tang Guo, Zhou Jin hurriedly left. Tang Guo returned to her room and began to think about how she would spend the gold after it was sent over. He definitely couldn't just leave it there and let it gather dust. He had to let the gold work. After thinking about it, the only thing she could do was to control some of the economic lifelines. She recalled the dishes she had eaten before and felt that they tasted a little strange. Later, she found out that it was because of the salt. The salt extraction technology here was very backward, and the salt was very crude. It was better for the rich, but for the poor, the salt they ate might have some sand in it. It was especially astringent and bitter, but they couldn't not eat salt. It was a necessity for the human body. Because of the salt problem, the food here was not developed. No matter how good the food was, it was not very delicious. Therefore, she could do this. Just by doing this, she could already control a certain economic lifeline. After making up her mind, Tang Guo fell asleep. Before she went to bed, she wondered if Tang Shan had woken up and if the family Tang knew about this. In the middle of the night, at the mass grave, Ma He, who had been beaten to death, started to breathe again. He forced his eyes open and felt a slight pain in his body. He touched his wound and found that his injury was much better. He was shocked. Who was the second miss? She actually had such a miraculous medicine. He slowly stood up. There were corpses everywhere. He quickly ran away and found a hidden place to hide. He touched the place where his heart was beating and let out a long breath. The second miss is still trustworthy. Unfortunately, the second miss probably wouldn't use a person like him. It was good to be able to keep his life. After this disaster, Mahi didn't dare to stay in the capital. He even restrained his temper a lot. He planned to leave the capital. He still had one more thing to do, and that was to spread the word about Tang Guo's order. Even if he didn't have money on him, Mahi wasn't worried. With his ability, it was easy for him to make money. The family Tang also knew what happened in the regent's residence. Of course, they didn't know about the million gold. They only knew that Tang Guo left the regent's residence in a rage after what Tang Shan did was exposed. We still have to bring her back. How can she be wandering outside? Father Tang said. Mother Tang sighed. Tang Shan didn't handle this matter well. No matter what, Guo is her biological sister. I told her repeatedly that she couldn't regret what she did. She had to hide it and deal with all the people who knew about it, but she insisted on keeping Guo alive. Now that the matter has been exposed, it can't be hidden anymore. I'm afraid the gap between her and Guo can't be healed. Chapter 48-52. The family Tang discussed in the middle of the night and decided to pick up Tang Guo tomorrow. What they didn't expect was that before they could pick up Tang Guo, what happened at the regent's residence yesterday had already spread. Tang Shan drugged her sister, causing her to be unable to conceive for the rest of her life. This was so that when Tang Guo married into the regent's residence, she could take care of her son and daughter wholeheartedly. The details of the regent's residence were all discussed by the people of the capital. Of course, Zhou Jin added fuel to the fire. He already understood Tang Guo's thoughts. Since this matter would be known by others, it was better to publicize it. However, he used some tricks to leak the news to the ministers who opposed Yun Bingjun. They grasped this matter. Even if they couldn't do anything to Yun Bingjun, they could make him lose face in the capital. The relationship between Yun Bingjun and Tang Shan had always been the symbol of the capital. There were even many scholars who wrote about the immortal love between them. They even said that she should marry Yun Bingjun and marry Tang Shan. Now that this news had spread throughout the capital, Tang Shan's image suddenly changed in the eyes of all the scholars. From noble and unapproachable, she became vicious and vicious. Yun Bingjun knew that there was no way to stop the news from spreading. He could only block the news in the residence and not let it reach Tang Shan's ears. Tang Shan had already woken up. She looked around the room and found that only Yun Bingjun was there. She asked, Bingjun, where's Guo? Yesterday's matter was still vivid in her mind. She hoped that it was just a dream. Meiyu betrayed her and had an affair with Mahi. She revealed her secret to Mahi. If it wasn't for Meiyu, how could this matter be exposed? This ungrateful bitch. She's gone. Yun Bingjun replied. He hugged Tang Shan and comforted her in a low voice. The doctor said that your body isn't well. Don't be angry over these small matters. Taking care of your body is the most important thing. Tang Shan's eyes turned red. She threw herself into Yun Bingjun's arms and cried, Bingjun, I really have no way out. I'm too scared. I know that I let Gua down, but I was really too scared. When I thought of leaving you and the two children, I was dizzy and did this kind of thing. If I could do it all over again, I definitely wouldn't hurt Gua, like that. I believe you, Sean, Don't blame yourself. I understand. Yun Bingjun hugged Tang Shan and kept patting her back. I know you're afraid that the two children will be bullied. You think that as long as Gua, can't get pregnant, she will definitely treat them as her own. They won't bully her, and there won't be other children competing with them for their parents' love, right? Tang Shan held back her tears and quickly nodded. Bingjun, I have no choice at all. Gua won't forgive me. The gap between us can never be removed. At this moment, Tang Shan's heart was filled with hatred. Not only did she lose her wife, she also lost her soldiers. In the past few years, in order to pave the way for this, she had racked her brains to make Gua, willingly help her take care of her children. If it wasn't for Meiyu, that wretched girl, being mesmerized by a man, all of her plans wouldn't have been foiled. It was almost impossible to find another suitable candidate. As for her body, could it last that long? Did Gua, go back to family Tang? I want to see her. Tang Gua's path couldn't be taken, but she couldn't pretend that nothing had happened. She still had to do what she had to do. She didn't dare to let Tang Gua get close to the two children. Chapter 48-53. However, if she went to Tang Gua and showed how helpless and confused she was, at least it would make them look better on the surface. If Tang Gua could blame her, scold her, and have a bad attitude, she could win more sympathy. As long as Tang Gua treated her with a bad attitude for a long time, she didn't fight back, didn't say anything, and only blamed herself and showed her guilt. People who saw it would think that she was forced. There was no way to hide this matter. A small number of people would definitely know. She had to strike first. I'll send someone to ask. Now Tang Shan looked very weak, as if she would fall asleep at any time. Of course, Yun Bingjun had to try his best to meet all her requirements. So, he arranged for someone to go to Tang Gua's place and tell her that Tang Shan wanted to see her. However, the person who was arranged to go there was scolded before he could enter the gate. Yun Bingjun, let's go later. She's still angry. I'm afraid she really doesn't want to see anyone at this time. Your health is important. Take care of yourself first, then you can do other things. Tang Shan was very persistent. No, I want to go. If she didn't go at this time, when the matter was over, she couldn't go back. When people knew about it, she couldn't explain it. Everyone would think that she was a vicious woman who hurt her sister. At this time, she only needed to see Tang Gua. If she could scold her a few times, it would be best if she could pass out. Bingjun, send me to see Gua. Tang Shan's persistence was something that Yun Bingjun had no choice but to agree. When they arrived at Tang Gua's place, Tang Shan was a little puzzled. This is not the Tang mansion. Gua, doesn't want to go back to the family Tang. She lives here now. Yun Bingjun explained. He didn't disclose all the details. So that's the case. The two went to the door and told the gatekeeper why they came. Prince Regent, Princess, you can go back. My master won't see you. My master said that Prince Regent shouldn't forget what you promised. If you dare to come again, she doesn't know what she will do. The gatekeeper's words made the regent's eyelids twitch. Although he knew that this was a threat, he still decided to arrange for more people to protect Tang Shan and the two children to avoid any accidents. If Tang Shan couldn't see Tang Gua, she wouldn't cry and shout at the door. It would be a joke. The moment she returned to the carriage, she thought of an idea. From tomorrow onwards, she would come every day until Gua, could see her. Tang Gua ignored her now, which was the most uncomfortable thing for her. It seems that Her Highness will not give up. Zhou Jin looked at Tang Gua, who was tasting the tea, and couldn't help but take a sip. He didn't know where she got such good tea. It was much better than the tea he got. At first, he thought that Yun Bingjun had hidden all the good stuff. Later, he found out that it was Tang Guo who took out the good stuff. Yun Bingjun didn't have anything. Tang Guo's relaxed look made it impossible to see how angry she was. It was as if nothing had happened. She was clearly in front of him, but Zhou Jin was more and more confused. It doesn't matter. Tang Guo knew what Tang Shan was thinking. Tang Shan wanted her to stand out and scold her. Tang Shan could use this to gain some sympathy. She was seriously ill. About this matter, it would be understood that she was a woman who loved her son and had no choice. In front of the weak, people would always lose their rationality for a moment. Chapter 48-54. Breaking Tang Shan's trick was very simple. Wherever Tang Shan and she appeared, they just had to arrange a few rude women who knew how to scold people. These women had all experienced the vicissitudes of life and could see through people very clearly. If they saw Tang Shan's behavior, they would only curse and expose Tang Shan's tricks, making her lose even more face. If there's anything you need help with, you can tell me, Zhou Jin said. Tang Guo, I won't be polite. When Zhou Jin heard this, he felt a lot more at ease. He didn't have sick leave now and still had to return to the palace. There were many things that he had to go through. So he could only reluctantly say goodbye to Tang Guo. He had only taken sick leave for a few days. If he took it again, it didn't seem very good. Zhou Jin walked away, looking back 3 times with every step. Qi Qing saw him like that and felt very lucky. Fortunately, second Miss Tang and the regent didn't get along. Otherwise, Master would have fallen for the beauty trap. It was impossible to turn things around in this lifetime. Not long after Zhou Jin left, Mother Tang came with a large group of people. Tang Guo didn't ask people to turn Mother Tang away. She wanted to hear what Mother Tang had to say. When Tang Guo was about to go see Mother Tang, the system spoke. Little Tongzi is still the most attentive. Just now, the little emperor was too pleased with himself. Tang Guo hurriedly used her internal energy to force her face to turn pale. She didn't care about her reputation, so she let this matter be exposed. But she also didn't want to bear the name of being unfilial and let the family Tang Shan, and the others stand on the moral high ground. When Mother Tang saw Tang Guo, her face was pale and she didn't have the liveliness of the past. There was no trace of a smile on her face. Her small appearance was very distressing. But at this time, Mother Tang was no longer in the mood to comfort Tang Guo. The rumors outside were getting worse and worse. Her younger daughter was ruined and had no hope of turning things around in this lifetime. Who would be willing to marry a woman who couldn't bear children? Going back on the old path was the best ending. She wanted to settle the previous matter as soon as possible. She came to Tang Guo's place, while Father Tang went to the regent's residence. As long as they worked together and reversed yesterday's matter, all of this would not just be a misunderstanding. Then, everyone would be happy. Regardless of whether Tang Guo would marry into the Prince Regent's mansion in the future, the reputation of the two families would be preserved. When necessary, sacrificing Tang Guo was the best choice. Shan was confused for a moment. When she was young, she loved you the most. Whenever she had something good, she would send it to you. Could it be that the friendship between the two of you is broken just like that? Shan was forced into a corner. She didn't want to do this either. Think about how good she used to be. Don't tell me you're going to overturn all her good deeds just because of this one mistake. You two sisters are as close as one. Shan doesn't have many years left to live. I think she's blaming herself. I heard that she came to look for you before. Her body is so weak, but she still came to look for you. Why is that? It's because she feels guilty and wants to apologize to you. Guo things have already come to this point. Shan also knows that she was wrong. For the sake of the family Tang, for Shan and for your future, you should make a decision. Do you really want to see Shan unable to raise her head? Do you really want to see the two children treated the same way? Family Tang's daughter is implicated because of this matter. And what will happen to you in the future? If anything happens to Sean, the Prince Regent's mansion will break ties with us in the future. Without you, even if we have 2 children, we won't be able to get close. Chapter 48-55. The Prince Regent is so powerful, there's no way he won't marry a new princess consort. When the time comes, the 2 children will be bullied. Can you really bear to see such adorable children suffer? Mother Tang's eyes were red as she wiped her tears. Then, she knelt down in front of Tangua. Sean, is sorry. Mother will kowtow to you, okay? Mother Tangua thought that after speaking so much and kneeling down, Tangua would be moved. She knew her daughter best. She was soft-hearted and kind. Even if she looked unapproachable, she believed that with her methods, she would be able to make her accept her arrangements. Mother Tang didn't expect that when she knelt down, Tangua didn't rush to help her up. Even when she was about to kowtow, Mother Tangua didn't move. Mother Tangua, will you only be satisfied when your mother dies? Tangua didn't seem to hear her. She propped up her chin and stared blankly ahead, as if she was in a daze. Mother Tangua also realized that something was wrong with Tangua. It was as if she didn't hear a word she said. She didn't see what she did either. Mother Tang couldn't sit still anymore. She went up and grabbed Tangua's hand. She realized that Tangua still didn't react, as if she wasn't angry. Mother Tang opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. Madam Tang, you should leave. Master has been in a daze for the past 2 days. She'll be in a daze for half a day. No matter how much we call her, she won't respond. She'll just stare at one spot for a long time. The servant next to her explained to Mother Tangua with a worried expression. Even Tangua, who was pretending to be in a daze, couldn't help but clap her hands in joy. Zhou Jin had found her a clever servant. Madam Tang? You should go back first. Master will probably be in a daze until night time. Mother Tang was dumbfounded. Did she say that much? Tangua didn't hear a thing. Servant Lingyu sighed. Master is too sad. Thinking about how she won't be able to have a child in this lifetime. She's too sad. Mother Tang didn't give up. How many times did she call Tangua? She didn't respond. No matter what Mrs. Tang said, she did not respond. This time, she was finally unwilling to give up. She only gave a few words of advice and left. Was his heart in a mess? It was as if things were out of her control. Are there more and more rumors outside? If Tangua didn't say anything, they wouldn't be able to control themselves. Tang Shan and Yun Bingjun returned to the regent's mansion. She happened to meet Father Tang, who was waiting for her. When Father Tang saw the 2 of them, he told Mother Tang about the plan. When Tang Shan found out that the rumors outside were so powerful, she fainted immediately. She cried to the 2 of them the moment she woke up. She kept admitting her mistakes. It was as pitiful as it could get. In fact, many people around her felt that Tang Shan had no choice but to take that step. In the end, Yun Bingjun agreed to Father Tang's plan and even said that he told Tang Shan. This was the best result for Tangua. Wait for things to calm down. They would make it up to Tangua in the future. However, they soon received news from Mother Tang that things weren't going well with Tangua. Family Tang. I'm afraid this matter has affected her. When she saw me, she didn't say a word. She was just in a daze. She didn't even respond when I kowtowed to her. Mother Tang's face was full of worry. I'm afraid this matter won't be easy to handle. If we don't do it well, it might even backfire. Yes. Father Tang was also very worried. They didn't know that Tangguo would become like this after this incident. She had become so dull and stupid. Even if they tried to control her with family ties, they couldn't do anything about it. If others found out, they might even laugh at them. things would develop in a bad direction. Peak. Chapter 48-56. The Tang family was helpless. Tang Shan was also very anxious. She hadn't done anything yet, but the news had already spread like wildfire. At this time, Yun Bingjun suddenly said, "What do you plan to do with Meiyu? I had her locked up earlier. After all, she's one of your people. I didn't dare to do anything to her." Meiyu. Tang Shan's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness, but she didn't show it on her face. "This matter was originally my fault. It serves me right that it was revealed. But I can't have such a loose mouth by my side. She's even a servant girl who seduces my guards. Seeing that Meiyu has served me for so many years, I'll just sell her off. I'll leave this matter to the wet nurse. She's just a little servant girl. There's no need for you to worry about her." Tang Shan leaned on Yun Bingjun's side. "What I'm most upset about now is that I don't know how to repair my relationship with Guo. Although father and mother's suggestion was good, this matter was originally my fault. If I do that again, I'm afraid Guo will never forgive me. So, let's just forget about this matter." Tang Shan felt that if she didn't deal with this matter in the first place, she would be criticized even if the consequences were successful. It was better to just let it be. When there was a chance in the future, she would apologize to Tang Guo. As long as she apologized every time Tang Guo appeared, she would slowly recover her reputation. Tang Guo had better treat her badly. From now on, it would be the same every time they met. Yun Bingjun breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't care what others said about Tang Shan as long as he understood her. What did it matter to the others? The wet nurse followed Tang Shan's instructions and brought Meiyu to the slave trader. Of course, Meiyu couldn't resist. At first, she really thought that Tang Shan was simply selling her. With her looks, she should be able to meet a good family in the future. However, she didn't expect that not only did the wet nurse not take the slave trader's money, she even gave the slave trader some money so that she could find a good place for Meiyu. The slave trader took Meiyu far away and sold her to a brothel. From the first day, Meiyu had to serve countless customers every day. At that time, Meiyu understood that Tang Shan's heart was the most ruthless. But what could she do? He could only endure it. As for Ma He carried the mission given to him by Tang Guo. Wherever he went, he would spread the news about Tang Shan. Who was Tang Shan? The regent's consort. Such explosive news would attract attention no matter where it was. Moreover, the emperor was far away from the capital. No matter how powerful Yun Bingjun was, he couldn't control the mouths of all the people in the world. Most importantly, this was the truth. Now that everyone was staring at him, it was even more impossible for him to kill everyone who was discussing this matter. The gold that Yun Bingjun had promised had already been quietly transported to Tang Guo's place in the middle of the night. The family still wanted to take her back. After all, how could the family's daughter be left wandering outside? Mrs. Tang came again. Tang Guo didn't pretend to be in a daze this time. "Mother, you already knew about it, right?" Mrs. Tang was silent for a while before saying, "I don't agree with what Shan did, but by the time I realized it was already too late. But you still chose to hide it and helped push me into the fire pit. Even if you didn't lead this matter, you didn't get angry because of what Tang Shan did. You even took me back. If you had come earlier, maybe I would have gone back. Mrs. Tang, Guo, things have already come to this point. Your sister also made this decision in a hurry. She had no choice. Your father and I were thinking that since things have come to this point, marrying into the regent's residence is your best choice. Don't you think it's funny? You want me to raise the child of the person who harmed me? Mrs. Tang, isn't a woman who can't have children like this? Where else can you go besides the regent's residence? Now that you want to enter the regent's residence, I'm afraid the regent won't let you. What, are you afraid that I'll harm their child? Then why did you come to provoke me? Go back. From today onwards, I have nothing to do with the family. From now on, you choose to stand on Tang Shan's side. She still had important things to do and didn't want to waste any more time with the family. As for Tang Shan, Chu Qiu would deal with her. In 3 or 4 years, Chu Qiu would come. The family's background was particularly dirty. When the little emperor took control of the power, he could casually find a reason to make them suffer. Just like the current family, wherever they went, they would lose face. Chapter 48-57. That girl doesn't want to come back. She even said that she wants to cut ties with the family, Mrs. Tang said as she returned to the family. Everyone was there and they were furious when they heard this. Mr. Tang said, now that things have gotten out of hand, our previous plan won't work regardless of whether the regent agrees or not. The people in the capital aren't fools. Anyone with a discerning eye knows what's going on. If you ask me, this is all the princess consort's fault. Everything was fine at first, but she insisted on drugging Tang Gua. Now, everything is ruined. If she hadn't drugged Tang Gua, nothing would have happened. Yeah, the princess consort didn't do it well. It wasn't easy for our family to settle on a marriage, but because of this, the marriage didn't go through. In an instant, the people from the family's side branch started blaming Tang Gua. Now, it wasn't a matter of whether Tang Gua could come back or not. It was a matter of whether she could come back or not. The reputation of the Tang family's women had been ruined by Tang Shan. It wasn't as easy as it used to be to settle on a good family. Of course, because of her relationship with the regent, she didn't have to worry about not being able to get married. It was just that she couldn't choose as she liked like before. Master, what about Gua Er? Mrs. Tang asked. Are we really going to ignore her? Mr. Tang said angrily, didn't she say that she didn't want to come back? You already begged her so humbly and didn't even give her face. If she doesn't want to come back, then so be it. If she doesn't treat herself as a family's daughter, then she can forget about ever coming back. If it wasn't for the fact that kicking Tang Gua out of the family would severely damage their family's reputation, he really wanted to kick her out. In Mr. Tang's opinion, Tang Gua didn't have a place to protect her. In the future, she would still have to come back to her family for help. She couldn't run away. Besides, even if she came back, she wouldn't be able to find a good family. Those with a decent family background wouldn't even consider her. Moreover, a family's daughter couldn't be the legal wife. Under the tacit agreement of the family, they didn't look for Tang Gua again. In the end, the matter of Tang Shan harming her sister was not resolved. Yun Bingjun did not care much about it. The family Tang's side was a little more miserable. Tang Shan's health wasn't good to begin with, and she didn't want to go out and show her face at this time. She simply said that she was sick and couldn't get out of bed. She recuperated in the manor all day. However, she still arranged for people to send things to Tang Gua every day. These things were prepared by the servants and sent to her on time. She didn't need to worry at all. Although she didn't go in every time, she didn't stop. Sure enough, in just half a month, there were rumors in the capital that Tang Shan was apologizing to her sister. She sent people to deliver gifts every day, and even if she was rejected at the door, she didn't give up. Such stubbornness did make people think of her a little better. She still cares about her reputation. How can I let her have her way? Tang Guo waved at Lingyu. When Lingyu heard Tang Guo's plan, she couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. She was so happy that she almost jumped on the spot. Master's move was really amazing. Lingyu was actually a secret guard trained by Zhou Jin. When she first heard that she was sent to protect a girl that Zhou Jin had his eyes on, she was a little repulsed. After all, she was a very strong secret guard. What kind of mission was protecting a little girl? More importantly, Qi Qing told her that that girl would be her only master in the future. He meant that she would only listen to Tang Gua. She couldn't report anything to Zhou Jin. After staying by Tang Gua's side for a few days, she was completely willing. Chapter 48-58. She could tell that the relationship between His Majesty and her master was bound to happen sooner or later. Furthermore, being by her master's side made her life more exciting. Master, Ling Yu will take her leave first. Tang Guo waved her hand. Go, buy 2 sticks of candied haws when you come back. Ling Yu stopped in her tracks. 2 sticks. Was 1 stick for His Majesty? Every time her master asked her to buy something, she would buy 2 sets. The other set would definitely be left for His Majesty. Ling Yu remembered what she was about to do. She took out a veil and covered her face. Then, she went to the base of the wall and jumped up. She actually climbed over the wall. After about 2 hours, Ling Yu returned. At the same time, in many corners of the capital, people were discussing how Tang Shan might have been muddle-headed. Now, she might have realized her mistake. Suddenly, a different voice appeared. Her muddle-headed mistake ruined her sister's life. Shouldn't she be apologizing? Speaking of which, if she wants to apologize, why doesn't she go herself? Instead, she sends people to deliver things every day. I don't think this is an apology, but harassment. She even caused trouble for His Majesty. It's obvious that second Miss Tang doesn't want to see her, but she still goes there every day. To second Miss Tang, she's an enemy. Say, an enemy chopped off one of her legs and came to give you gifts hypocritically. You obviously won't accept them, but she still sends them every day. What is the meaning of this? Aya, what else can it mean? Isn't it clear now? A woman with a basket on her head spat in the direction of the Prince Regent's residence. Think about it, everyone in the capital was talking about her bad character. She actually harmed her own sister. In the end, she sent things for half a month and His Majesty didn't accept them. Now, there are people who can understand her actions. This price is too small. The words of the woman with the basket on her head enlightened everyone. This Tang Shan was so calculative. What happened to second Miss Tang is a disaster for us women. In the end, she apologized and made it known to everyone. I just don't understand. Who would keep an eye on the servants of the regent's residence going to second Miss Tang's place every day and even explain the details clearly? I really don't believe that no one is deliberately spreading this behind the scenes. Now that I think about it, it's true. If my elder sister had treated me like that, I wouldn't have been able to see her for the rest of my life. Second Miss Tang is still an unmarried girl. She doesn't know what to do in this lifetime. She used to be a priceless treasure, but now, she's been destroyed. That person actually wants to use second Miss Tang to redeem her reputation. How vicious. In just half a day, those who sympathized with Tang Shan felt that she was a schemer. She was indeed someone who wouldn't even let go of her own sister. Many people said that she was a hypocrite. Tang Shan's plan was ruined. When Tang Shan found out about it, she was so angry that she had to stay in bed for some time. Mrs. Tang sent a letter to Tang Shan that day, telling her not to act rashly. The general trend of the matter could not be changed. Many people were watching the regent's residence, telling her to rest well. At this time, if something happened to Tang Shan, they really didn't know what to do. The family Tang even had a new idea. Should they arrange for another person to go to the regent's residence? When this suggestion came out, those who loved their daughter a little were not willing. They even ridiculed her in a strange way. Who knew what would happen to their daughter in the future? In short, this matter was left unsettled. Chapter 48-59. The regent's residence and family Tang had settled down, so Tang Shan could only lie low for the time being. Sure enough, this trick was still useful. New things happened in the capital every day, and gradually, not many people discussed this matter anymore. If more people discussed it, they would not be caught as an example. If fewer people discussed it, they would definitely not have a good ending if they were caught by the regent. This result was within Tang Guo's expectations. It just so happened that she also had something to do. Since ancient times, the salt well had always been in the hands of the government, and then it was distributed to the aristocratic families to do this. Therefore, it was still very difficult to get involved in this. Of course, it was not that she had no way. As long as she could find a way to get the official permission, she would be able to do this. However, it was not an easy task to get the official permission. The little emperor's power could not be exposed yet. Otherwise, it would be very disadvantageous to them. It was not that she could not use the regent's words, but she did not want the other party to know that she was the one who did this. She had not completely cut off her relationship with family Tang. She did not want family Tang to gain any benefits because of her achievements. I've seen you frowning recently. Did you encounter any difficulties? Zhou Jin leaned over the table and asked Tang Gua, who was writing and drawing. He recognized the words on it, but he did not understand some of the patterns. Do you not treat me as one of your own? Tang Gua stopped writing. No, if I didn't treat you as one of my own, would you be in my study? You would have been kicked out long ago. Zhou Jin did not mind. He walked over and sat on the chair. He said lazily, then why didn't you ask me for help when you encountered difficulties? You can't interfere in this matter. I don't want to expose what I did in front of others for the time being. If you interfere, people will suspect that you have other ideas. Zhou Jin became interested. What's the matter? Is it so serious? I want to do the salt business. This. Zhou Jin frowned as expected. I'm afraid this won't work. Although salt has always been controlled by the imperial power, it has long been distributed to the major aristocratic families. In fact, the aristocratic families are the ones who really control this. If they really make a fuss, it will be difficult to stop. If you can really do it, it will only be beneficial to me, and there will be no harm. That's why I said you can't be bad. Tang Gua shook her head. Say, if I can really make a salt business and bring out salt that is more refined than the current market, will the regent spare no effort to give me a space to survive when those people find trouble with me? He will. Yun Bingjun is indeed very greedy for power, but if he were to rebel, he would have a psychological burden. Although he was greedy for power and wanted to step on me, the emperor's head, he was very serious in his work. To put it simply, it was very useful, but unfortunately, I couldn't use it. If someone can break the status quo, he will definitely support it. And on the surface, this matter is beneficial to him. Many aristocratic families have people who are officials in the imperial court. The weakening of the aristocratic families means that his opponents will also be weakened. Tang Gua picked up a ceramic jar on the side. Look at this salt. Is it good enough? At first, Zhou Jin did not pay much attention to it. However, when he saw the snow-white salt inside and how fine it was without any impurities, he was shocked. This is salt. Try it. Zhou Jin took some and tasted it on his fingers. It only had a salty taste, without any bitterness. This taste was amazing. If it's all this salt, Yun Bingjun will definitely support you. Zhou Jin leaned over. Where did you get this salt? How did you get it? Chapter 4860. I saw it in a novel. I have nothing to do recently, so I gave it a try. Tang Gua took out a novel. This novel was obtained in another world. The words were similar, so Zhou Jin could understand it. So it's like this, I plan to arrange for people to do this. The salt wells won't be in this place. They will go to the border and some small foreign countries. Some time ago, she borrowed a large number of manpower to create a batch of paper puppets for this purpose. Zhou Jin asked, do you have enough manpower? Yes. Zhou Jin didn't say anything else. Tang Gua was so mysterious, so she definitely had her own methods. As long as she didn't leave, it wouldn't be a problem. The next day, Tang Gua arranged for most of the paper puppets to be refined according to her plan. They went to the border and some small foreign countries to refine the refined salt. After more than a year, the paper puppets returned and brought the refined salt to negotiate with Yun Bingjun. They planned to open a store in the capital. After all, in this country, selling salt required an official permit. As expected, Yun Bingjun didn't care about the officials' objections. He quarreled with them in the imperial court until their faces turned red, scolding them until they were ashamed. The little emperor Zhou Jin sat on the throne. He looked silly, but in reality, he was very satisfied with today's big battle. Regent Yun Bingjun never disappointed him when he quarreled. Especially when he was in the right, these old officials couldn't get rid of him even if they tried to swindle him. Every time Yun Bingjun won a great victory, Zhou Jin would sigh. Why wasn't such a powerful person his subject? Actually, he felt that Yun Bingjun wasn't suitable to be the emperor. He was really suitable to be the emperor's knife, cutting down whoever he met. Your Majesty, the appearance of refined salt is a good thing for the country and the people. Our great Lan can't miss such an opportunity. This subject got some from the peddler. We can use this refined salt to make soup in front of your Majesty and all the officials. Let everyone have a taste of this refined salt. Yun Bingjun was very confident. The little emperor was very obedient and listened to everything he said. Just as Zhou Jin was about to say something, the officials all knelt down. Your Majesty, you can't. This refined salt, approved. Zhou Jin interrupted the words of these selfish old men. Refined salt was cheap and delicious, but these fellows insisted on saying bad things for their own benefit. It was so annoying. Every day, it's inevitable that there will be some bitterness in the dishes and soups. This emperor also wants to have a taste of what a soup without bitterness tastes like. The ministers looked at each other. Damn it, they forgot that the little emperor was a delicious guy. As long as it was delicious, he would try it. They knew that the little emperor often pretended to be sick and went out to eat good food. No wonder the Prince Regent always mentioned that the food cooked with refined salt was especially delicious. It turned out that he was trying to deceive the little emperor. This little emperor was too disappointing. Zhou Jin, on the other hand, was thinking that after waiting for a year, he could finally touch the salt openly. Otherwise, he could only secretly eat at Tangua's place. He couldn't pretend to be sick every day for a month, right? That would be too embarrassing. Prince Regent, I'll leave this matter to you. You must make those peddlers stay. I want to eat refined salt tonight. Yun Bingjun was satisfied in his heart. The little emperor's persistence in eating had never disappointed him. Yes, Your Majesty. This subject will do it after the court. I ask Your Majesty to write an imperial edict. Zhou Jin, after the court, the Prince Regent will come with me. Yun Bingjun was also very good at writing imperial edicts. This matter could be regarded as a coincidence. He believed that Yun Bingjun would do it well. It worked too well. Unfortunately, Yun Bingjun, who was treated like a bull, didn't know the little thoughts in Zhou Jin's heart. He thought that the little emperor was so happy because there was refined salt to eat. He thought that if he wasn't still the Prince Regent, the little emperor would definitely be destroyed by this. The little emperor was not without merit. Being obedient was an advantage. At least, he would not interfere with his business and would not add trouble to him. He had to pay more attention to those ministers, lest the little emperor be led astray by them. Yun Bingjun left with the imperial edict. Not long after, the paper puppet arranged by Tang Guo opened a salt shop in the capital. The price of this salt shop was not high. As soon as the shop opened, it attracted countless people to come and buy. Chapter 48-61. For the next 6 months, it was all about the struggle between Tang Guo's salt shop and those aristocratic families. During this period, all kinds of methods emerged, but they were all resolved by Tang Guo. After half a year, coarse salt was gradually eliminated. In the end, Yun Bingjun once again argued with the officials and allowed Tang Guo's paper puppets to mine salt wells in the local area. The aristocratic families found that they couldn't fight. There was the regent standing there. This regent had a lot of power and was also a lunatic. If they really fought, they didn't dare to. Refined salt had gradually been popularized in various places. Coarse salt had long been eliminated, and the paper puppets had more and more salt wells in their hands. The price of salt also fell. At this time, even if the aristocratic families obtained a way to refine refined salt, they couldn't make as much profit as before. After the matter was over, Tangua's gaze fell on the food. As the saying goes, food is the most important thing for the people. People can't lack food. Therefore, she sent another wave of paper puppets out to do the food business. They stored food, sold food, and controlled the price of food. This was not the responsibility of the government. There was no need for any permission. She could do it boldly. Zhou Jin didn't know about the food business. Unknowingly, Tangua already had a large amount of food in her hands. She also gave these paper puppets a spatial magic treasure. All the food was inside. As long as it was the harvest season, they stored food wantonly. As long as they could store, they would store. Unknowingly, for years passed just like that. At this time, Tangua and Zhou Jin were both in their early 20s. Zhou Jin pretended to be sick and sneaked to Tangua's place to play. It was already a common thing. He didn't hide this matter from Yun Bingjun. After Yun Bingjun found out, he didn't care. In his opinion, if the little emperor really liked Tangua, and Tangua was also willing, the two of them would be a good couple. Have you ever thought about moving to another place? Zhou Jin asked tentatively. Tangua, for example? The Imperial Palace. Zhou Jin began to list the benefits of the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace is very big, much bigger than this. No matter how big it is, you can only live in one room and sleep in one bed. Is that a benefit? In the face of Tangua's words, Zhou Jin could not refute. There are many good things in the palace. Tangua moved her feet and kicked a gold brick to Zhou Jin. You can also use gold bricks to cushion the table. Speaking of which, Tangua didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident when she accidentally cut off a section of the table leg. She didn't think of anything else, so she found a gold brick and put it on the table. She had forgotten to take it out. Zhou Jin held onto the crooked table and hurriedly stuffed the gold brick back in. The table was finally level. You know what I mean. Tangua smiled. What do you mean? That's what I meant. Zhou Jin moved his stool to sit beside her and whispered, Look, I'm already 22, but I'm still single. When we first met, I fell in love with you. At first, there were some contradictions, and I was afraid that you would stand on the regent's side. To tell you the truth, at that time, I thought about taking down the regent every day and then snatching you over, but I was afraid that you wouldn't be willing. Later, I found out that things weren't that simple, so I was very happy. So many years have passed in a flash. I want you to live in the palace willingly. It's so big, and I'm the only one in such a big house. It's so cold at night. System, laughing to death. So you just want to find someone to warm your bed? Zhou Jin, no, I want to help you warm your bed. You see, it's almost winter. I haven't warmed anyone's bed since I was born. I want to try what it's like. But I don't want to live in the palace. Tangua became serious. If you choose me to be with you, you can't choose anyone else. Even if we don't have children, it can't be. As the emperor, aren't you afraid that you won't have an heir? The imperial family doesn't lack children. Just pick any smart one from the imperial family and raise them. Since he said this, Tangua was naturally satisfied. That's fine. But in the future, if I want to live outside, I can live outside. Of course. Zhou Jin held Tangua's small hand and was very excited. Yun Bingjun wants me to be addicted to you every day. He'll agree with this and help us cover up. System, Yun Bingjun, that unlucky child, ha ha ha. Chapter 4862. Then I'll tell Yun Bingjun about this matter? Zhou Jin asked, he should be very supportive of this matter, and most likely will help us hold a grand wedding. Tang Guo held Zhou Jin's hand. There's no hurry for the time being, let's wait a little longer. Seeing that Zhou Jin was puzzled and a little disappointed, Tang Guo said, I feel that something will happen. It's not too late to wait for another 2 years. Zhou Jin knew that Tang Guo was not a person who liked to joke. If she said that something would happen, it must be true. What will happen? It's just intuition, I don't know. If it was a small matter, it would be the arrival of Chu Qiu, which should be able to make the regent's residents perform a wonderful show. If it was a big matter, it would be the invasion of a foreign country at the border, and there would be a war. At the same time, because a certain official concealed the truth about the yellow disaster, it made the yellow disaster serious. The local people had no way to make a living, and they scolded the incapable ruler. This blame would be placed on Zhou Jin's head. These 2 major events would happen in the next 1 or 2 years, and it was really not suitable to get married after Chu Qiu's matter. Zhou Jin did not ask any more questions. Sometimes, intuition was really possible for something to happen. Since Tang Guo had already agreed, and he had waited for so many years, 1 or 2 more years would not make a difference. Tang Guo looked at Zhou Jin's appearance, and most likely did not think so far ahead. She simply took out a few copper coins and showed him her divination. Zhou Jin saw her throwing copper coins there, and he was a little baffled. However, he had also read some books about divination, but he had never met a person who was really accurate in divination. Are you doing divination? Zhou Jin asked with some confusion. Could it be that she also knew how to do divination? Yes, I'm doing divination. She knew this kind of small trick, but she usually did not use it. She knew what would happen in the future, but now she wanted to find a reason to let Zhou Jin pay more attention to the situation of a certain place, so as to avoid serious losses when the time came. Zhou Jin sat at the side and watched Tang Guo do the divination seriously. When she stopped, he asked, What did you divine? Tang Guo looked at the copper coins on the table and said, The divination is not very good. What's wrong? Zhou Jin was a little nervous. Is it about you or me? If you think about it, it should be about you. Seeing that Zhou Jin didn't have much of a reaction, Tang Guo even heaved a sigh of relief and continued, Great Lan might face a bloodbath, which is a war. At this moment, Zhou Jin could no longer maintain his calm appearance. He stood up abruptly and stared at the few copper coins. He couldn't understand them no matter how hard he tried. Really? It's true. My divination has always been very accurate. It's best to prepare as soon as possible. Tang Guo touched the copper coin and told Zhou Jin the location. As long as Zhou Jin knew, he would definitely reveal this information to Yun Bingjun. Yun Bingjun wanted supreme power, so he definitely did not want the war to affect his position. He would definitely arrange for people to quell the chaos. Zhou Jin's expression was solemn. When we return to the palace tonight, I will arrange for people to check these areas. After saying this, he realized that Tang Guo had done another divination. Then, he saw Tang Guo frown and felt that something was wrong. What's wrong? Did something big happen again? Is it still about you? Zhou Jin's face paled a little, but he was still very calm. What is it about this time? The divination shows that in the next 1 to 2 years, many people will starve to death in the northeast, and there will be some unrest. Zhou Jin clenched his fists. Then I will arrange for some people to keep an eye on that area. If people will starve to death, then we will prepare some food in advance. When the time comes, we won't be in a panic. Peak. Chapter 48-63. If it's not enough, you can ask me for more. Zhou Jin held Tang Guo's small hand. It should be enough. Every year, the imperial court will store new grain. As long as those officials are not greedy, you also know that it's as long as. What if it's gone? Tang Guo's words made Zhou Jin silent. It seems that I still have to act as soon as possible and strive to control all the power in my hands as soon as possible. Otherwise, doing these things will be too restrictive. Zhou Jin paced in the room. Give me another 3 years, and I should be able to take back all the power. Are you planning to kill all those officials who don't listen to your advice? Zhou Jin hurriedly shook his head. How is that possible? I just want to put my own people in some key positions. It's impossible to kill all the officials. I just want to use my own power to make them submit and be obedient. If I can use them, of course, I still have to use them and slowly eliminate and replace them. All these years, I've been asking people to collect information on them. Once I have something on them, there's basically no problem. It's just that these guys are very treacherous, and some of them hide deeply. Information on them? Tangua instantly had an idea. Then, she would give Zhou Jin a big gift. She was the best at stealing things that could be used against others. She didn't tell Zhou Jin about this. That day, the two chatted for a while, and Zhou Jin hurried back to the palace. Obviously, the news from Tangua's divination made him unable to sit still any longer. He wanted to go back early to arrange all of this. Regent, everything is normal on the Emperor's side. After seeing the second miss, he returned to the palace. Yun Bingjun grunted. It seems that the little Emperor has really taken a fancy to her. Now, he's sneaking out of the palace to run to her. Regent, do you want to interfere with this matter? Yun Bingjun raised his eyebrows. Interfere with what? Isn't this good? For a woman, there's nothing bad about pretending to be sick and leaving the palace all day long. As long as he remains obedient, it's not impossible to satisfy this small request of his. Yun Bingjun was already thinking about the matter of matchmaking the two. When he found a good opportunity, he would propose in the imperial court to choose an empress for the little emperor. When they heard that it was Tangua, the other party would definitely agree. With the two of them together, they wouldn't cause any big waves, so he wasn't worried. Let's go see how Shan is doing. Ever since that incident, Tang Shan had been living in seclusion. Over the years, many people had forgotten that she had harmed her sister. With her status, even if she appeared occasionally, no one would be so bold as to casually discuss these matters in front of her. Since everyone had forgotten about it, Tang Shan didn't want others to remember it. Originally, the doctor had said that she could only live for a year and a half. Now, 4 years had passed and she was still living well. As long as she took the life-prolonging pill every year, she would not die. At this time, Yun Dan and Yun Xian were accompanying Tang Shan to have tea and snacks in the house. The three of them were laughing and joking around. It was very harmonious. Tang Shan had no intention of finding a second wife for Yun Bingjun. According to the doctor's guess, as long as she persisted in taking the life-prolonging pills, it wouldn't be a problem for her to continue living. If she could continue to live, why would she find someone to make things difficult for her? Tang Shan didn't find someone for Yun Bingjun, so he was happy and relaxed. He didn't have to suffer. That incident back then didn't cause any estrangement between Yun Bingjun and Tang Shan. Only he would understand how reluctant Tang Shan was to part with him. Every time she talked to him about marrying Tangua in the future when she died, she would wash her face with tears. He knew how reluctant she was. Chapter 48-64. If it wasn't for Tang Shan crying by his side, he wouldn't have agreed to let Tangua move into the regent's residence in advance. Mother, my sister and I will leave first. We won't disturb your rest. Yun Dan said, Mother, you must take care of your body. Don't worry about us. Tang Shan's face was full of smiles. Okay, go play. Yun Dan and Yun Xian were now 10 years old. After the two siblings changed their name to Tang Shan, they went out to play. Although the two of them were well behaved in front of Tang Shan, they were actually two little tyrants. Few people in the capital dared to provoke them. When they heard that the regent's son and daughter came out, they would hide far away. Their attendants were also very arrogant. Wherever the two of them passed, they would be fierce and wouldn't allow people to take a second look. The two of them played along and didn't expect that they would encounter danger this time. They actually didn't like to bring their attendants along to play. Many times, they would disappear while walking, causing all the attendants to look for them for a long time. They would then jump out with a smile, as if they were playing hide-and-seek with others. They liked to see these people anxiously running around in circles when they couldn't find them. "Brother, there are a lot of people over there. Let's quickly run over there." Enchanting said, "I remember there's an alley over there. After passing through the crowd, we'll hide in the alley." "Okay, it's settled then. There seems to be a juggling show over there. They definitely won't notice." The two of them wanted to see the juggling show. The attendants beside them naturally didn't dare to disobey and could only carefully guide them over. They were about to let the others disperse a little when they were stopped by the two. At this time, they didn't want these people to disperse. If that happened, where would they hide? The juggling show was very attractive. Yundan and Enchanting's attendants were vigilant at first, but were attracted by the show's content and applauded one after another. Yundan and Enchanting took this opportunity to give each other a look and disappeared into the crowd. By the time the attendants reacted, they had already run far away and couldn't see their figures at all. "They definitely won't be able to find us this time. Let's look around first and wait for them to get anxious before going back," Enchanting said. She waited for Yundan's response and found that Yundan was staring in a certain direction of the alley. She also looked over. Why are there so many carriages here?" Counting carefully, there were at least 5 carriages. "Let's go and take a look," Yundan said. Enchanting was also a little curious. With so many carriages parked in the alley and no one around, it was indeed a little strange. They walked over and lifted the curtain of the first carriage. What they saw were beautiful young girls. Their hands and feet were tied, and their mouths were gagged. They couldn't move or speak. When they saw them, one of the girls even winked at them. Both Yundan and Enchanting understood and planned to leave. They didn't expect to be caught as soon as they left. "Look what I've caught. 2 beautiful dolls. I didn't expect to have such a harvest. Tie them up and bring them to the car." Seeing that the two of them were about to shout, the man who had grabbed them struck their backs with a karate chop, and the two of them fainted. They were tied up and thrown into the nearest carriage. Chu Qiu looked at the 2 children who were thrown in and felt despair. She had just transmigrated and was in this carriage. The rope that bound her was so strong that it was impossible for her to break free. Chapter 48-65. Even the cloth that was stuffed into her mouth was wrapped around her head. It was impossible to get it out. She, who was in despair, didn't expect to run into 2 children. She signaled for them to run and call for help. She didn't expect those people to come back so quickly. These 2 children, who were dressed in extraordinary clothes, would probably be taken away by these human traffickers like her. The carriage left the city smoothly. On the other side, the regent's residence's attendants were still looking for Yuntan and Enchanting. After searching for a long time, it turned out that at this time, the 2 children would jump out and laugh at them. This kind of thing happened every time. In fact, they didn't pay attention to the search at all today. They were completely pretending, thinking that these 2 playful children would eventually run out on their own. They were the regent's children. Who would dare to do anything to them? Yuntan and Enchanting didn't show up for a long time. They finally felt the seriousness of the problem and began to search carefully. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. After 6 hours, they still didn't see anyone. The attendants who followed them out could only go back with pale faces to report this matter. The entire regent's residence was alarmed. If they weren't in a hurry to find people, those slacking attendants might have already been beheaded. Are you sure there was a group of carriages that left in a hurry? No matter if they're inside or not, take a group of people and chase after them. After you catch them, you must check carefully and interrogate them. Yun Bingjun couldn't not be angry when his children disappeared at the same time. When Tang Shan found out, she fainted on the spot. Fortunately, she had the life-prolonging pill. Otherwise, she might not have been able to hold on. After checking one by one, the most reliable ones were those carriages. Yun Bingjun personally led people to chase after them. The carriages that had already run far away also stopped for a while. They stopped at an inn in a barren mountain. When the night was deep and quiet, Chu Chiu woke up the two children leaning on her. After the three of them worked hard to untie each other, they finally broke free from the ropes that bound them. They're all asleep. We'll run first. Only if we run out will we have a chance to come back and save them. Don't make a sound. The other women were sleeping so soundly because they were too noisy before and were forced to sleep. Chu Chiu was very calm from the beginning. She even pretended to be dying so that the people who tied them up let down their guard. Because of her beautiful appearance, they were afraid that she wouldn't be able to hold on if they forced her to drink the drug, which would affect their selling price. The two children were quite smart. Previously, when they received Chu Chiu's signal, they pretended to be very obedient and fearful. They didn't stutter and yell, so those people didn't do anything. The three of them jumped out of the carriage and quickly ran away. However, there were still people keeping count at night, afraid that an accident would really happen. In the end, they discovered that Chu Chiu and the other two had run away, so they quickly brought a group of people to chase after them. If we can't get him back, then we'll deal with him directly to prevent any future trouble. I didn't expect that I would be deceived by that woman. Yes, boss. Chu Chiu was dressed in black, so it was not easy for him to escape with the two children. He could vaguely feel that there were people chasing after them. Chu Chiu had no choice but to split up with them. She told them to find a bush to hide in and not make a sound. She would lure the others away. If they could wait until reinforcements arrived, they would bring their men to look for her. Chu Chiu believed that the two children's identities were definitely not simple. This was their only chance of survival. As expected, those people chased after Chu Chiu. It was also because Yun Bingjun valued the two children too much that he really chased after them in the middle of the night and encountered the two pitiful children. While Yun Dan and Yun Xian were crying, he split them in two. Some of them went to the inn to chase after the carriage, while he led the others to find the person who saved the two children. When they found Chu Chiu, she was already on the verge of death. She had been stabbed several times. That person was too angry and wanted to punish her. He stabbed her again and again in an attempt to let her know the price of running away. Just as he was about to deliver the final blow, he was stopped by Yun Bingjun. He carried Chu Chiu onto the horse. Seeing the two children crying miserably and shouting that they didn't want Chu Chiu to die, he suddenly remembered the life-prolonging pill. Chapter 4866. He always carried this pill with him. Whether it was for Tang Shan or for someone who had an accident, it was useful. He took out the pill and gave one to Chu Chiu. Sure enough, he found that although Chu Chiu's injuries were serious, she had no intention of dying immediately. Thus, they rushed back to the capital. Early in the morning, Yun Bingjun carried Chu Chiu back to the residence and invited a physician to treat her. At that time, Tang Shan had also woken up and was waiting in the main hall. When she saw Yun Bingjun carrying a woman covered in blood, her heart skipped a beat. She then looked at the two battered but unharmed Yun Tan and Yun Xian. She didn't care about anything else and rushed over to hug them. The three of them cried together while the physician was already treating Chu Chiu. After Yun Tan and Yun Xian finished crying, they told Tang Shan about the situation. If it wasn't for Big Sister Chu, we really would have been sold. Mother, it was too scary. Those people were so scary. They chased us with knives. When we brought father to Big Sister Chu, she only had one breath left and was covered in knife wounds. When Tang Shan heard the story, the discomfort in her heart dissipated. It turned out that this woman had saved her children. No wonder Bingjun was so nervous. especially when the two children cried and said that the woman must not die. Bingjun must have been afraid that the two children would be sad, so he directly carried them back. After comforting herself, Tang Shan had people take the two children to wash up while she went to the room to see Chu Chiu. Looking at the motionless and pale Chu Chiu lying there, Tang Shan felt lingering fear. If they hadn't separated at that time, her children might have suffered the same fate. At this time, she was very grateful to Chu Chiu. The physician treated her, prescribed medicine, and called the servant girls to change Chu Chiu's dressing and clothes. Chu Chiu's life was saved. Yun Tan and Yun Xian, who had changed their clothes, hurried over to ask about the situation. After knowing that Chu Chiu was still alive and would be fine after a while, they relaxed. However, they were unwilling to leave the room and insisted on accompanying Chu Chiu. Tang Shan's heart ached, but she couldn't stop them. When it was almost dawn, the two children fell asleep. Yun Bingjun didn't have time to sleep. He still had to deal with the young girls taken away by the human traffickers. There were dozens of girls in the carriages. This could be considered a very big case. After assigning the task, he hurriedly went to the imperial court and told them about this matter. It should be a relatively harmonious morning court. All the officials agreed to punish the human traffickers who abducted the young girls. In the morning, all the girls were sent home. Other than Chu Chiu, no one came to take Chu Chiu away. Chu Chiu had not woken up yet, so he could only stay in the regent's residence for the time being. Tang Guo woke up early in the morning and was also informed of the news. The news of a weak woman saving the regent's son and daughter had already spread like wildfire. In the memories of the original owner, this period was rather blurry. At that time, she had already been grounded by Yun Bingjun because of the two children's teasing and framing. What happened between the two children only reached her ears many days later. The only thing he remembered was that after Chu Chiu moved into the regent's residence, he never moved out again. Where Chu Chiu was from, how many people there were in his family, and what his identity was. The host didn't know. No one came to pick up Chu Chiu. Tong Zi, can you find out who Chu Chiu is? System, that's true. Keep an eye on it. Chapter 4867. Host, Chu Chiu doesn't seem to have any memories of that body, so there's no way to know her identity for now. Chu Chiu most likely won't be able to get her memories back, but if she meets her family in the future, she'll still be able to remember. Tang Guo didn't care about this, since she doesn't know, then forget it. Since she's the female lead, the mystery of her identity will be exposed in the future. At that time, it might even implicate some things. For now, let's see how things go between her and Tang Shan. Do Yun Dan and Yun Xian visit Chu Chiu every day? That's right, 3 times a day. Although Tang Shan doesn't say anything, she's actually jealous. But Chu Chiu is the savior of the two children, so Tang Shan can only pretend to be magnanimous. On the 3rd day, the unconscious Chu Chiu finally woke up. When Chu Chiu woke up, everyone in the residence was very happy. Yun Dan and Yun Xian heard this and immediately ran to her room. When they saw Chu Chiu alive and well, the two hurriedly sat by the bed and looked at Chu Chiu with concern. Chu Chiu was suddenly stared at by 2 cute children. She was a little confused, but she quickly reacted. She should be saved. She felt that she was very unlucky. Transmigrating was one thing, but as soon as she transmigrated, she was kidnapped and stabbed so many times that she almost lost her life. Sister Chu, does your body still hurt? Yun Dan asked. Yun Xian said, you were covered in knife wounds before. My brother and I were scared. Fortunately, you're fine. It's fine now. Chu Chiu looked at the furnishings in the room. She had felt that the two children were not ordinary before, and it was indeed so. She vaguely remembered that she was carried back by someone, and she heard people call that person the regent. Where is this? Yun Dan, this is my home. Not long after we separated that day, father found us. We took father to find you. Just a little bit more and that bad guy's knife would have cut you. Chu Qiu transmigrated in the carriage, so she didn't know the background of this world. But she could somewhat understand what a regent was. Wasn't it just because the emperor was too young when he ascended the throne and there was a regent to help him manage things? Many times, the regent's power was greater than the emperor's, or even above the emperor. It was equivalent to holding the emperor and ordering the courtiers around. The two children accompanied Chu Qiu and spoke a few words. Tang Shan, who had heard the news, also rushed over with people. It's good that you're fine. Tan, and Enchanting, have been coming here every day for the past 2 days. They were worried that something bad would happen to you. Tang Shan held the Buddhist prayer beads in her hand and kept pinching them. Miss, what's your name? Chu Qiu. Where is Miss Chu from? It's like this. That day, everyone else had already been taken back by their families. Only Mrs. family did not come. Since Chu Qiu was already awake, Tang Shan didn't want Chu Qiu to stay here any longer. She always felt that it wasn't good to leave Chu Qiu here. This came from her intuition. Chu Qiu looked confused. I don't think I remember. She rubbed her head as if trying to recall what had happened before. I really can't remember. When she crossed over, the original owner also hit her head. She guessed that the original owner died like this. Tang Shan had seen Chu Qiu's bandaged head, so she didn't suspect that Chu Qiu couldn't remember anything. Miss Chu, you don't have to be anxious. Take your time to think about it. Maybe you'll remember it after you've recovered. Vertex. Chapter 48-68. Chu Qiu nodded, but she was thinking that the original owner left in a hurry and didn't give her any memories. Even if she recovered, she wouldn't be able to remember. Since Chu Qiu couldn't remember, Tang Shan couldn't do anything about it. She didn't stay here for long and ordered the servants to take good care of her. She told the two children to go to school, but she was rejected. They said they wanted to spend more time with Chu Qiu. They were a bit annoyed, but she couldn't blame them. When Yun Bingjun returned home and heard that Chu Qiu had woken up, he came to visit. When Chu Qiu saw Yun Bingjun for the first time, she couldn't help but praise him. She didn't expect such a handsome man to exist. Unfortunately, he was a man with children. She didn't have much interest in a man who already had children and a wife. So she didn't look at him again after a few glances. So, Miss Chu has already forgotten what happened in the past? Yun Bingjun asked with a frown, you really can't remember anything other than your name? Chu Qiu nodded, and, I also want to remember what happened in the past. At this time, I want to go home even more. Yun Bingjun saw that Chu Qiu didn't seem to be lying, so he didn't dwell on this matter. Let the doctor come and take a look at you. If you can't remember anything for the time being, you can stay here for now. If you need anything, just order the servants. Thank you, Prince Regent. Yun Bingjun, I should be the one thanking you this time. If you didn't come up with a solution, Tan, and Enchanting would have been dead. Miss Chu, please stay here. Yun Bingjun left these words and left. He didn't plan to say anything more to Chu Qiu. Chu Qiu felt regretful for a while, but with the two children accompanying her, she forgot about this matter. That's all the regent said before he left. Tang Shan heard the servant's words and felt relieved. Tell the servants to take care of Miss Chu. She can't be wronged. If this spreads, people will say that I don't know how to be a person. She didn't want to be caught and criticized like a few years ago. After so many years, her reputation finally recovered. Since that day, Chu Qiu didn't see Yun Bingjun again. Most of the time, Yun Bingjun sent people to ask about the situation. But the two children, she saw them several times a day. As for Tang Shan, she saw them once every 2 days. Chu Qiu wasn't a fool. She always felt that there was something wrong with the way Tang Shan looked at her. Later, she found out that this Prince Regent was an infatuated person. He only had Wang Fei. She finally understood that Tang Shan must be uncomfortable with her, a stranger, living in the regent's residence. But now that her injuries had not healed, she could only stay here and avoid the regent as much as possible. She quite liked these two children. Perhaps it was because they had gone through difficulties together, but they were very close to each other. Tang Guo was not too disappointed when she heard that things were going well over there. This was just the beginning. The good days were still to come. In the original owner's memory, Chu Qiu was someone who could adapt to an unfamiliar environment. In the original plot, after Chu Qiu recovered from his injuries, he left the regent's residence. In the beginning, neither she nor Yun Bingjun had any thoughts about each other. However, as they got to know each other better, they couldn't help but be tempted. Chu Qiu was quick-witted and had many ideas. It was hard not to attract people's attention. Tang Guo was waiting for Chu Qiu to leave the regent's residence. At that time, the things that Chu Qiu brought to this world would definitely catch Yun Bingjun's attention. 2 months passed. Tang Shan heard the two children praise Chu Qiu every day. She was very jealous, but she couldn't say anything. Chapter 48-69. She hoped that Chu Qiu would leave every day, but unfortunately, she couldn't. Chu Qiu's memory had never recovered, and she was the savior of her children. If she showed any intention of chasing her away, she would definitely be criticized. But she didn't expect that Chu Qiu would mention leaving first. Miss Chu's memory has recovered? Tang Shan asked, but she was actually happy. Chu Qiu shook her head. Not yet, but I've disturbed you for many days. I think it's time for me to leave. When the regent comes back, I'll say goodbye to him and then leave. Chu Qiu looked at Tang Shan's fake reluctance and rolled her eyes in her heart. Didn't she want her to leave? These rich madams really knew how to pretend. She was afraid that if she stayed here, they would give her some medicine to kill her. When Yun Bingjun came back, she would ask him for a sum of money and then do business in the capital. Recently, she occasionally went out to investigate and found out that there were many businesses she could do in this world. The customs here were quite open. Every day, there would be women shopping on the streets and buying beautiful things. She could make a lot of money by making rouge and face powder. When Yun Dan and Yun Xian heard that Chu Qiu was leaving, they were very reluctant and hugged her tightly. Tang Shan was heartbroken, but she couldn't help but smile. Dan, Xian, it's not that I'm not in the capital anymore. I just don't live here. This is not my home. I have to live in my own place. When I settle down, you can come and play with me in the future. Actually, she was quite reluctant to part with these two children. They were the first friends she made when she came here. Only then did the two children give up. When Yun Bingjun came back, Chu Qiu went to see him. You've recovered your memory? Not yet. Chu Qiu replied. But I can't always live here. This is not my home. I have to find a place to settle down and live in my own place to relax. Yun Bingjun was a little surprised. This woman was really bold to say such things in front of him. What do you want to do after you leave? I want to do some rouge and face powder business. I feel that I should know how to do it. When the time comes, I'll try to figure it out. Chu Qiu glanced at Yun Bingjun and said, but I need the regent's support. It was the first time Yun Bingjun met such a bold woman. No one had ever dared to ask him for his support. You're Tan, an Xian, savior. As long as you don't ask for too much, I'll satisfy you. Why don't you tell me how you need my support? Chu Qiu was not polite at all. I want a shop, and I also want some capital. Lastly, I need 2 people. I know that it is not easy to open a shop in the capital. With the regent's people watching over it, I don't think anyone would dare to do anything. Chu Qiu's words made Yun Bingjun take a few more glances at her. This woman was quite calculative, but he didn't dislike her. This was much more admirable than directly asking him for a few million taels of silver. This made him think of Tanggua. Back then, Tanggua had asked him for 1,000,000 taels of gold. Now that he thought about it, his heart still ached. That was why there was such a huge difference between people. Some people cared about temporary benefits, while others cared about long-term benefits. There was no doubt that Chu Qiu had considered the long-term benefits, which made him admire him even more. As for that Tanggua, she took his 1,000,000 taels of gold and shut herself in her room all day, eating, drinking, and playing with the little emperor. She had no ambition at all. Chapter 48-70. At the family Tang's side, they basically treated her as dead. In any case, if she didn't come out and embarrass herself, everyone would tacitly agree that she didn't exist. All right, I agree. Thank you, Prince Regent. The two of them looked at each other and laughed. Unknowingly, their relationship had become closer. Chu Qiu moved out the next day. Yun Bingjun had someone find her a prosperous shop and a courtyard for her. He gave her some money and 2 people she could order around. In the following month, Chu Qiu was busy with her matters and didn't have time to play with the 2 children. When the 2 children heard that she was busy, they didn't disturb her for the time being. Chu Qiu promised them that she would look for them after she was done with her work and even give them gifts. Tang Shan finally let out a sigh of relief. If Chu Qiu stayed in the manor every day, she would definitely die of a heart attack. Look, what do you think of this? What is this? Tanggua took a beautiful white ceramic jar from Zhou Jin's hand. There were beautiful patterns on the outside of the jar. It looked very high class. Open it and take a look. Tanggua raised her eyebrows and opened the lid. When she saw what was inside, she understood. It's actually lipstick. Do you like it? Zhou Jin took out a box. It's a set. It's all new stuff. This shop is in the capital. A rouge shop opened in the capital some time ago. It's full of new stuff. As the emperor, you don't pay attention to the affairs of the imperial court. Instead, you spend all your time observing these rouge shops. Don't you think you're neglecting your duties? Zhou Jin leaned to the side. Who said that paying attention to rouge shops isn't a big deal? This is a big deal. It's also something that belongs to our great lawn. I realize that the things in this rouge shop called Autumn Water are better than those that were offered in the past. If it can continue to develop like this, it might become a special feature of our great lawn in the future. Tanggua already knew who was the one who made these things. She dipped her finger in some lipstick and applied it to her lips. The texture seemed to be pretty good. Other things aside, Chu Qiu was quite good at studying rouge and face powder. This is not bad. The things in this rouge shop are better than those that were used in the past. Zhou Jin, I knew you would like it. How did you know about this shop? Any new news in the capital can't escape my eyes. My men will write down any new information and pass it to me. At this point, Zhou Jin lowered his voice. Do you know who the owner of this Autumn Water Rouge shop is? Who? It was a woman named Chu Qiu. Tanggua's gaze became strange. Zhou Jin seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly explained, of course, the most important thing isn't that she's a woman. It's that this woman's background isn't simple. Could it be that Zhou Jin had investigated Chu Qiu's background? Some time ago, something happened to Yun Bingjuan's son and daughter. They were almost sold by human traffickers. Do you know? Tanggua now understood that Zhou Jin still hadn't found out about Chu Qiu's background. He only knew that Chu Qiu was related to Yun Bingjun. This woman is the one who saved Yun Bingjuan's son and daughter. With Yun Bingjuan's help, she opened this shop. Zhou Jin rubbed his hands. I feel that this matter isn't simple. Everyone knows that the regent and his wife are very loving. They only have each other for so many years. But now that a woman suddenly appeared, I feel that something is going to happen. Tanggua, how do you know that something is going to happen? What if this is just Yun Bingjun thanking her for her help? Chapter 48-71. But that Chu Chiu is not ordinary. Yun Bingjun even met her in private. Recently, the two of them seem to have some kind of cooperation. I haven't received any information about the details. Cooperation? So that's how it is. What's your purpose in telling me this in such a hurry? Zhou Jin held Tangua's small hand, dipped his fingertips in the small jar of lipstick, and wiped her lips. To make you happy, I think you will be happy. Tangua decided to go to Autumn Water Rouge shop to take a look. Ever since she moved into this house, she basically didn't go out. Some of her social interactions were also almost cut off. These were not very important to her. The social interactions of ancient women, other than making friends to pass the time, were to exchange information. This time, going out could be considered as her reappearance in front of people. Since Chu Chiu was here, she should also go out and see the fun. Autumn Water Rouge shop's decorations were indeed not ordinary. Although it was not luxurious everywhere, it was very stylish. Compared to ordinary rouge shops, there was a place for customers to rest and drink tea. Tangua got down from the carriage and walked to Autumn Water Rouge shop. A clever maid came up to greet her and warmly invited her in. The display inside was very neat and orderly, giving a refreshing feeling at first glance. Of course, she also saw Chu Chiu, who was helping the madams and misses try on the rouge. Perhaps because Tangua's gaze was very focused, Chu Chiu couldn't help but look back. When she saw Tangua, she only felt that her eyes lit up. This should be the best woman she had seen since she transmigrated. In fact, the princess regent was also very beautiful, but she felt that this one was more beautiful. When Tangua was looking at things, Chu Chiu had finished her work and was already in front of her. Miss, what do you want to choose? Just looking around. Chu Chiu smiled and introduced several kinds of rouge to Tangua. Tangua only took a few glances and bought all the rouge that Chu Chiu introduced. After Tangua left, Chu Chiu asked the people around him which family this young miss was from. She looks familiar, but I can't remember. I go to all the gatherings in Beijing. I can't remember who she is. Chu Chiu also felt that Tangua was a bit familiar. Suddenly, she remembered that this young lady just now seemed to be a bit similar to the regent's consort. I remember now. Isn't this that person? Chu Chiu quickly asked, who is she? Who else could it be? The one who hasn't come out for more than 4 years is also a pitiful one. If it weren't for that incident, would she be unable to return home? Chu Chiu looked at these madams and young misses chatting. They didn't mention names, so he was very anxious. However, she had a way to make them open their mouths and give them some gifts. Naturally, they would feel closer to her. After hearing about what happened a few years ago, Chu Chiu felt that it was unbelievable. It turned out that the princess regent caused his own sister to be infertile. This was too magical. No, this was ancient times. It wasn't strange at all. It could be said that the regent's consort was simply a good abacus. She wanted her younger sister to take care of her child and not have children. Wasn't this a good plan? Fortunately, she came out. If the regent's consort had done this to her, she was afraid that she couldn't bear it. The madams and young misses in Beijing found that Tangua, who had been immersed in her life for many years, came out and was often active in front of people. Miss Tang is here. In the beginning, many people still called Tangua second Miss Tang. Later, she corrected them. Now, those who knew her called her Miss Tang. It didn't take long for this matter to be known by the family Tang and Tang Shan. No one outside is talking nonsense, right? Tang Shan asked. They don't dare. Tang Shan pinched the prayer beads. I heard that Chu Chiu opened a rouge shop. Recently, she seems to have made a new product. What is it called? Yes. Tang Shan took a deep breath. Tan, and Xian, often go there. Young Master Tan and Miss Xian like to play with Miss Chu. Tang Shan naturally didn't want to, but she couldn't find fault with Chu Chiu. She just hated Chu Chiu very much. Even she didn't know why. When she heard that Chu Chiu was doing well outside, she was very distressed. Something that made Tang Shan even more distressed happened. When she went to deliver ginseng soup to Yun Bingjun, she inadvertently saw the things in front of Yun Bingjun and asked. "This is soap and soap. The soap is used to wash clothes, and the soap is used to bathe." Yun Bingjun said this and praised Chu Chiu. "I didn't expect Miss Chu to come up with such a good idea. She can't eat these two things alone, so she wants to cooperate with me." Tang Shan almost broke the prayer beads in her hand. Chu Chiu again. Chapter 48-72. Bingjun, is this thing really useful? Tang Shan asked with a doubtful attitude. In fact, she had a heart attack. Even if Yun Bingjun didn't seem to have any feelings for Chu Chiu, his praise for Chu Chiu couldn't be concealed. After being married to Yun Bingjun for so many years, she had never seen him praise another woman other than her. However, she couldn't be jealous of Yun Bingjun because of this, because there seemed to be nothing between them. If word got out, others would say something bad about her. She also didn't want to leave behind a jealous and gossiping person for Yun Bingjun. Because of a groundless Chu Chiu, it would affect their relationship. This thing is very useful. The soap has already been distributed to the servants in the residence. According to Miss Chu, soap has many fragrances. After washing clothes, there will be a lingering fragrance on it. If Shan likes it, ask someone to try it. Yun Bingjun was very happy to give a lot of soap and scented soap to Tang Shan. Tang Shan could only take it and thank him with a pleasant expression. She was so bored that she almost fell ill. Yun Bingjun saw that her complexion was not good and quickly went forward to hold her hand. "Are you feeling unwell again?" "It's nothing. You know that my body has always been like this. Being able to live one more day is worth it. I only hope that I can live until Tan, or an Xian, or grow up. Then, I can leave in peace. You only think about the two children. Have you never thought about me? If you leave, what do you want me to do?" Yun Bingjun hugged Tang Shan. The doctor said that although the pill can't make your body better, it can prolong your life. Take one regularly and you will be fine. The biggest reason why Yun Bingjun agreed to give Tang Guo 1,000,000 taels of gold was because of this pill. For so many years, he was quite satisfied that Tang Guo didn't come to cause trouble. Of course, Tang Shan didn't want to die. According to the current situation, if she really died, it might be to make room for Chu Chiu. Then what would happen to her two children? Although Chu Chiu treated the two children well, once a woman had her own children, it was impossible for her not to think about them. At that time, the two children would definitely be wronged. She acted like this because she wanted Yun Bingjun to pay more attention to her and not give him time to look at other women. Tang Shan was already thinking about how to get rid of Chu Chiu, this woman who threatened her position. They definitely couldn't do it openly. Chu Chiu had Yun Bingjun's people by his side, so they couldn't do it secretly either. What if Chu Chiu got married? Tang Shan's eyes lit up. That's right, if Chu Chiu got married, she would no longer be a threat to her position. Then what kind of family should she show Chu Chiu? The main thing was that Chu Chiu's identity was unclear, so it was not good to look at him. Tang Shan had another idea. Why don't she take Chu Chiu as her god-sister? Then, it would be easier for her to get married. No, Tang Shan hurriedly shook her head. It would be better to let Bingjun take Chu Chiu as his god-sister. Once Tang Shan figured it out, she immediately asked someone to bring her a name list. She planned to show it to Chu Chiu. On the other side, Chu Chiu was still busy with the business in his hands. He had no idea that Tang Shan was helping him look for someone. That's a good idea. You actually came up with it. Yun Bingjun and Chu Chiu sat in a tea house, discussing soap and perfumed soap. In fact, Chu Chiu also wanted to make glass, but it was too difficult. The conditions here couldn't meet the requirements. Therefore, she just had to do what she was doing first and think about the rest later. Chapter 48-73. Just these strange ideas of hers were enough for Yun Bingjun to admire. Do you remember anything from the past? Yun Bingjun asked another question in order to get down to business. Chu Qiu shook her head. No, but it's not important. It's good now. After these few months of contact, Chu Qiu also admired Yun Bingjun. No matter how bold her ideas were, Yun Bingjun would support them. This showed that he was a person with great foresight. For such a person to become the regent of the Great Mist Country, it was the country's blessing. If there was no Yun Bingjun, could that little emperor in his early 20s really make the Great Mist Country so prosperous? It was said that the little emperor was good at eating, drinking, and playing, but he didn't know how to govern the country. The Great Mist Country was supported by Yun Bingjun alone. Yun Bingjun, the regent, was different from the kind of powerful regent she had imagined, who only cared about himself. No one could help but admire him. Will the regent go to tomorrow's poetry meet? Chu Qiu asked. I think that at this time, if we release the new products in the store, it should attract more people's attention. If the regent can come, that would be even better. Yun Bingjun was not interested in the poetry meet, but since Chu Qiu said so, he also felt that it was a good idea. Okay, let's do it like that. Tang Shan hasn't appeared in a long time. I plan to bring her out for some fresh air. At this time, Yun Bingjun had no other thoughts about Chu Qiu, only admiration. Chu Qiu was the same. If they didn't get along for a long time and didn't experience some things together, these two would probably stay like this forever. But they were originally the male and female lead, and were destined to walk together because of some things. This was only a matter of time. Unless there was an existence like Tang Gua, who caused some trouble in the middle, there was no way for them to walk together again. But Tang Gua would not do that. Don't come tomorrow. I want to go to the poetry meet. Your identity is not suitable. Tang Gua pushed Zhou Jin in disdain. This made Zhou Jin feel very wronged, and he came out claiming to be sick. In recent years, the courtiers in the imperial court had become more and more restless. It was probably because they saw that he had fallen ill so many times but still did not die. They felt that there was no hope of establishing a new emperor and wanted to give him a last resort. During the morning court session, he always liked to stir up trouble to make him fight for power with the regent, which always gave him a headache. I'm definitely going to the poetry gathering this time. I want to see what Chu Qiu can do. You just wait at home. I'll come back tonight to have dinner with you. I'll bring you a stick of candied haws when I come back later. Zhou Jin, so you're coaxing me like I'm a child. Can't be coaxed. I can coax her, I can. Zhou Jin hurriedly said, then I'll wait for you at home. Remember to come back early. There are still people waiting for you at home. Don't be too playful. Ling Yu almost face-bombed. Was this the emperor that she had known for so many years? Why was he becoming more and more shameless in front of Master? She had seen the emperor who was calm and collected in private. She had also seen the emperor who pretended to be incompetent in front of the courtiers. She had even seen the emperor who threw a tantrum and used the excuse of punishing a nail. Now, she had seen such a shameless emperor. Speaking of which, Master was more capable. She could make the emperor so shameless and obedient. Tui, it was lucky that she didn't say this out loud. Otherwise, she would definitely be punished. Chapter 48-74. When Tang Gua arrived at the place where the poetry meet was held, there were already many people there. The moment she appeared, many people's gazes turned towards her. Recently, Tang Gua had been more active, and she had shown her face in front of everyone again. No one forgot what happened in the past, so it was inevitable that they would look at Tang Gua differently when they saw her. Many people felt that she was miserable, but because of Tang Shan, they didn't dare to get too close to Tang Gua. After all, Tang Gua and Tang Shan had broken up, and she hadn't returned to the family Tang for so many years. The family Tang's attitude was obviously to give up on this daughter. Getting close to Tang Gua was a thankless task. However, no one dared to provoke her. It was meaningless. Tang Gua chose a seat and sat down, ignoring everyone. She was here to watch the fun, not to make friends. Chu Qiu had been here for a long time. With her status, she couldn't be later than these madams and misses. Because of Autumn Water Rouge shop, Chu Qiu was very popular. When those madams and misses arrived, they smiled and chatted with Chu Qiu. When Tang Gua arrived, it was indeed quiet for a moment. Chu Qiu couldn't help but look at Tang Gua. The person next to her pulled her. "Why, are you interested in Miss Tang?" Miss Tang is also a pitiful person, but... The person next to her didn't continue, and Chu Qiu understood. She was pitiful, but no one would get close to her because she didn't have any power behind her. She wasn't worth being friends with, and they might even offend the regent's consort. Thinking of Tang Shan's viciousness, Chu Qiu felt that she shouldn't go to the regent's residence in the future. She was also afraid that Tang Shan would drug her. Naturally, Chu Qiu wouldn't choose to get close to Tang Gua. After all, she didn't want to cause trouble for herself. She remembered that Yun Bingjun and Tang Shan would come later. She didn't know what would happen when they met. As she was thinking, Yun Bingjun appeared with Tang Shan. When these two appeared, many people were envious. Even though Tang Shan had done so many things in the past, her position as the regent's consort was not shaken at all. Many people remembered that Tang Gua was here. Perhaps because they had a tacit understanding, they all moved aside, exposing Tang Gua's figure to Tang Shan. Tang Shan's attention was still on Chu Qiu. She inadvertently shifted her gaze and saw Tang Gua sitting there, slowly sipping her tea. In that instant, her body stiffened. When Yun Bingjun saw Tang Gua, he frowned. If he had known that Tang Gua was here, he definitely would not have brought Tang Shan along. That incident was ultimately Tang Shan's fault. Now that the two of them had bumped into each other, who knew what would happen? Yun Bingjun planned to help Tang Shan sit on the other side. Unexpectedly, Tang Shan's eyes turned red, and she went directly to Tang Gua's seat. Now that so many people were looking at her, if she pretended not to know anything, she didn't know what other people would say. In the current situation, Tang Shan could neither go nor stay. In the end, she had no choice but to go. "Gua, I didn't expect you to come too." Tang Shan's eyes were red as she wiped her tears. "It's been so many years. How have you been?" Tang Gua looked up and looked at Tang Shan with a faint smile. "Pretty good. I'm free and carefree. I have no worries and no worries. I can eat and drink." In one sentence, she described Tang Gua's life for so many years. In fact, she herself felt that her life was pretty good. But when these words reached the ears of these people, they felt all kinds of sadness. Chapter 4875. Freedom meant that there was no one to control her. Not going home meant loneliness. Carefree. What kind of person could be carefree? A person without hope. Carefree. Her sister framed her and her family gave up on her. Only then would she be carefree. Being able to eat and drink meant that she couldn't find anything meaningful to do other than eating and drinking. "Gua, you should move back." Tang Shan was just saying it casually. She still had to save face. She shouldn't have come today. Since she was here, she could only bite the bullet and try to look as pitiful as possible. "I'm living well. Why should I move back?" "Tang Shan, if we live together, we can take care of each other." "I can't take care of myself. It's so comfortable to live alone. If I move back, won't I be living under someone else's roof? I also have to see my enemy every day." I'm really afraid that I won't be able to control myself and do something that no one wants to see. That incident had already left a deep impression on everyone. Tang Shan couldn't pretend to be pitiful anymore. Tang Guo picked up the teacup and tasted the tea. No one thought that she was being rude. Instead, they felt that her reaction was understandable. Especially when they saw the two 10-year-old children behind Tang Shan. They all shook their heads. She even brought the children here. Wasn't she deliberately trying to piss her off? Why do you? Tang Guo glanced at Tang Shan indifferently. Regent's wife, don't mess with me for no reason. We can still live in peace. We are sisters after all. Don't be a joke here. I'm not afraid of being laughed at. If they want to laugh, they will laugh at you. Tang Guo noticed that Tang Shan's face was pale and she looked like she was about to faint. Don't faint in front of me. Otherwise, the regent will think that I bullied you. I didn't take the initiative to come to you. You came to me. If you faint, don't blame me. These words were obviously meant for Yun Bingjun. Tang Shan cursed in her heart. She shouldn't have come today. She originally planned to say a few more words before fainting. Now she forced herself not to faint. Help yourselves. Don't disturb me. Tang Guo waved her hand casually. Tang Shan didn't want to say anything more. She was so angry that she fainted. She could tell that Tang Guo really didn't care about sisterhood. As long as Tang Guo was easy to talk to, she could find a way to turn things around. Yun Bingjun gave Tang Guo a warning look and sat on the other side with Tang Shan. The people who were watching the show felt that it wasn't very satisfying, but they didn't dare to say anything. Next, it was time for everyone to display their abilities. It was like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, each displaying their own abilities. No one wanted to fall behind others. There were people who could compose poems, write calligraphy, draw pictures, and pair couplets. Chu Qiu also showed her talent. Her painting was very novel and attracted everyone's attention as soon as it appeared. It turned out that she was using charcoal to draw. It looked like a sketch of the modern world. She drew a simple picture of the scene in the garden. Although it was a little rough, it could be seen that he had some foundation. When Chu Qiu saw that she had attracted the attention of many people, she continued to promote her new product. The effect was very good, and she was in the limelight for a moment. What attracted Yun Bingjun was the charcoal drawing, which made him admire Chu Qiu even more. He even walked over to take a look and praised Chu Qiu. Tang Shan sat on the spot. Fortunately, her face was very pale. She suddenly felt a gaze. Looking over, she saw that it was Tang Guo. Chapter 48-76. Tang Guo looked at her with a half-smile, as if she was mocking her. This time, Tang Shan was really angry. Tang Guo looked at Yun Bingjun and Chu Qiu. Tang Shan looked over and saw the two of them talking and laughing. Then, she blacked out and fainted. Tang Shan's fainting shocked everyone. The poetry gathering could not continue. Yun Bingjun hurriedly fed Tang Shan a pill and carried her away in a hurry. Sister Chu, we won't stay any longer. We have to go back to see mother. Yun Dan and Yun Xian also hurriedly bid farewell. They could not help but look back at Tang Guo, who was sitting in the pavilion. In front of Tang Guo, they did not have the confidence. They also knew what happened back then. Moreover, the current little aunt made them feel afraid. They did not dare to be arrogant in front of her. After watching the show, Tang Guo left with Lingyu. After strolling on the streets for a while, she found a place that sold candied haws. She bought 2 sticks and returned to the residence. Chu Qiu looked at the leisurely back view and felt a little strange. Previously, she also felt that Tang Guo was very pitiful. After all, she could not have children of her own in this lifetime. Moreover, this was an ancient setting. She did not know what to do in the future. However, she suddenly realized that Tang Gua did not seem to be living that badly. She was carefree and unrestrained. She did not even fear Tang Shan. Compared to many people who lived carefully, she seemed to be more comfortable. Tang Shan fainted again. Zhou Jin ate the candied haws that Tang Gua brought and felt sweet. Can her body take it? She can. That pill was specially made for her. It's fine as long as she's still breathing. Tang Gua said casually. Hurry back to the palace after eating. There are more and more things happening recently. Yes, I know. Just now, Qi Qing said that there was news from the foreign country. I have to hurry back and see what's going on. Zhou Jin had a premonition that Tang Gua's divination was going to come true. As expected, when Zhou Jin returned to the palace and saw the movements of the foreign country, he completely believed in Tang Gua's divination. He thought of a way to leak this information to Yun Bingjun. As expected, in the morning court a few days later, Yun Bingjun reported this news and expressed his intention to send troops to intimidate the small foreign countries. Even though many people disagreed, he still tried his best to overcome all difficulties. In the end, Zhou Jin finalized this matter and sent troops to intimidate the small foreign countries. This time, it was also an opportunity for him to gain some military power. Chu Qiu's business was getting better and better. After the poetry recital, Tang Shan fell ill for a while. Not long after, news came from the border that there was a problem with the provisions. Yun Bingjun secretly left the capital to investigate the matter, intending to catch all the people who were playing tricks. Of course, the news of him going out could not be hidden from some people. Thus, some people took advantage of this opportunity to kill Yun Bingjun. Because of that, those people joined hands and caused Yun Bingjun to suffer. Not long after, the capital received news of Yun Bingjun's disappearance. For a time, everyone in the capital was in a state of panic. The ministers all had their own thoughts, but they did not dare to act rashly. They decided to wait. It would be best to wait for Yun Bingjun's corpse to appear. If Yun Bingjun's corpse was not found, then they would have to wait for half a year. Of course, Yun Bingjun did not die. Instead, he was met by Chu Qiu, who went out. With Chu Qiu's help, he escaped the pursuit. He did not appear for a while because he was seriously injured and was currently recuperating. Later, with Chu Qiu's help, he returned to the capital safe and sound. He did not return home for the time being. He chose to stay in Chu Qiu's small courtyard. Yun Bingjun was waiting for the ministers who wanted to force the abdication. When the time came, he would catch them all in one fell swoop. Zhou Jin was also waiting for these people to rebel. When Yun Bingjun appeared, he would help him replace this group of people. Has Yun Bingjun recovered from his injuries? Zhou Jin asked Tang Gua. Tang Gua, soon. It's been almost half a year. He should have recovered. During this time, his days have been very comfortable. Fortunately, my future empress is very resourceful. She can actually monitor Yun Bingjun's every move. This time, the heavens are really helping me. Zhou Jin rubbed his hands. He did not know how many of his men could be replaced this time. Chapter 48-77. I'm leaving. Chu Qiu, who was making tea, paused when she heard Yun Bingjun's words. She picked up the teapot and poured him a cup. Your injuries have long recovered. It's time to go. Yun Bingjun was feeling complicated. He didn't expect that in just half a year, he would be moved by Chu Qiu. The only person he liked was Tang Shan. How could he be moved by someone else? He couldn't deny this fact. After spending half a year together, he could clearly see what kind of amazing woman Chu Qiu was. What this amazing woman knew was something he had never seen before. Chu Qiu's charm was something that ordinary women didn't have. Even Tang Shan couldn't give him such a feeling. He even had a thought in his heart. If they had met earlier, they wouldn't be like this now. Chu Qiu sat down. Her mood was also very complicated. She never thought that she would actually like a man with a wife. From the first day she met Yun Bingjun, she knew that this man was extraordinary. Not many women could escape from him. When they saw him, they would definitely be moved. She thought that she was an exception, but after spending time together, she realized that she couldn't escape. Without this half a year together, she could still restrain herself and not think about those things, pretending that they didn't exist. That day, she saw the injured Yun Bingjun lying in the grass beside her. Looking at that familiar face, she actually panicked. At that time, she understood that she was moved by this man. When she sensed that he was still breathing, she actually became happy. This meant that everything about this man would affect her heart. After spending half a year together, she almost couldn't control herself. She could feel that Yun Bingjun was the same as her. He also had feelings for her. However, there was Tang Shan between them. She didn't want to get involved in other people's feelings. Yun Bingjun most likely didn't want to break everything. Tang Shan's health wasn't good, and she was the mother of 2 children. It was impossible between the two of them. The two sat in the pavilion. Neither of them spoke. It was very quiet. After a long time, they looked at each other for a long time. Chu Chiu said first, "Leave this place. Just treat it as a dream." Yun Bingjun saw Chu Chiu's appearance and wanted to go over and hug her, but he restrained himself. She echoed Chu Chiu's words, "It was a wonderful dream that made one forget to return." Chu Chiu's eyes were filled with tears. Why was it like this? That night, Yun Bingjun quietly left. Before leaving, he went to see Chu Chiu. She was fast asleep, and he stood by her side and watched her for a long time. After he left, Chu Chiu opened her eyes. It turned out that she hadn't fallen asleep. On the 3rd day, there were some ministers who could not bear it any longer and collaborated with a certain prince to force Zhou Jin to abdicate in the name of eradicating an incapable ruler. At the crucial moment, Yun Bingjun appeared with his men and caught all the officials who were trying to force the emperor to abdicate. As for that prince, he was also imprisoned in the mansion and was not allowed to leave for the rest of his life. Yun Bingjun casually ended the originally grand attempt to force the emperor to abdicate. Yun Bingjun also used this opportunity to investigate a group of courtiers. Because of this, there were many empty positions. Yun Bingjun then gave a list of names to Zhou Jin to help Zhou Jin analyze the situation of these officials and find suitable positions. After Zhou Jin heard it, he immediately approved it. More than half of the people on this list were his people. After Yun Bingjun left with the imperial edict, Zhou Jin could no longer hold back his laughter. He didn't expect that the battle between the two sides would let him get such a big advantage. Chapter 48-78. After settling everything, Yun Bingjun returned to the residence. Everything seemed to have returned to normal. Yun Bingjun not dying was naturally good news for Tang Shan, but after a few days of interaction, she felt that something was wrong with Yun Bingjun. No one would understand that feeling if she told others about it. Only she would understand it. She felt that Yun Bingjun had something on his mind, so he wasn't that close to her, and even avoided her occasionally. Tang Shan naturally couldn't directly cause trouble with Yun Bingjun, so she could only secretly investigate what was going on. Unfortunately, Yun Bingjun hadn't contacted Chu Chiu since he returned, so Tang Shan naturally couldn't find anything. But she was still flustered, feeling that something was going to happen. In order to tie Yun Bingjun to her side, she often said that she wasn't feeling well and wanted Yun Bingjun to accompany her. Yun Bingjun didn't find anything fake, as Tang Shan's body had always been like this. Even when spring came and flowers bloomed, Tang Shan still couldn't find anything, and even wondered if she was wrong. Perhaps half a year of separation had caused them to become distant. Tang Gua sat in the residence, and the system informed her of Tang Shan and Chu Chiu's reactions every day. Knowing that Tang Shan was pestering Yun Bingjun every day, using her illness as an excuse, she only smiled. Using his illness as an excuse was only temporary. If Yun Bingjun found out that Tang Shan had always been the same, and he got used to it, then it wouldn't be good. Chu Qiu was also in a bit of a situation. Ever since he lost contact with Yun Bingjun, he had lost a lot of weight. So lovesickness really does cause one to lose weight. Tang Guo looked in the mirror and found that her face had become a little rounder recently. I've been eating less recently, I've gained weight. System, did you just find out? Or are you living too well? Zhou Jin was also quite busy these days, and it seemed that he didn't have much time to play here. Zhou Jin had told her that he wanted to take control of power as soon as possible. Now that he had many trusted aides in the imperial court, what he lacked was military power. Plans had to be done step by step, and couldn't be rushed. Now that Yun Bingjun was in 2 relationships, it was time for him to take advantage of it. Tang Guo planned to see Chu Qiu, so she went to the rouge shop. The system told her that Chu Qiu was there. Not only did she see Chu Qiu there, but she also saw Yun Dan and Yun Xian. Her gaze swept past him indifferently, and she didn't look at him anymore. Mr. Chu, I heard that you have a new design here. Can I have a look? Chu Qiu smiled and nodded. Miss Tang, please wait a moment. Miss Chu seems to have lost a lot of weight. Did something bad happen to you? Tang Guo asked curiously from her seat. Chu Qiu shook his head. No, it's just that my appetite hasn't been that good recently. I see. I thought that something bad had happened to Miss Chu. As Tang Guo spoke, she noticed that Yun Dan and Yun Xian were both looking at her with fear in their eyes. She found it hilarious that these 2 children were still the same. Miss Chu, I really like the things here. As long as Miss Tang likes it. Chu Qiu said very politely. In fact, she was also very vigilant when she noticed that Tang Guo was sizing up Yun Dan and Yun Xian. After all, there was a grudge between them. If Tang Guo really remembered what Tang Shan had done and did something to these 2 innocent children, it would be very bad. When Tang Guo saw this, she seemed to have thought of something, and the way she looked at Yun Dan and Yun Xian became cold. Her appearance frightened the 2 children, and they hurriedly hid behind Chu Qiu. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.